Part 42. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 412. There is actually such a technique. In the prison. 4 old men squatted together, rustling and whispering to each other. Yilin stood aside and witnessed this scene, feeling as if 4 old men were hiding together and sharing a small website. After escaping from the high platform, Yilin returned here again. Although Yilin learned a lot about crystal patterns from the academy. But these 4 old men are the only remaining achievements of the great engineering college. They can be called the textbook of crystal pattern of humanoids. Yilin can use them in vain. Activating a spell in mid-air? Can't see the circuit? It's unscientific. No matter how unscientific it is, the basic laws of art must still be followed. Even if they hide the inner style, what about the outer style? It can't be the whole country. Do you feel any crystals moving on the ground? It doesn't look like it. Could it be? While several old men were chatting, the other 3 senior engineers suddenly woke up at the same time, remembering something, and their eyes turned to the face of the old driver Adeng. Ah! Why are you looking at me like that? I don't like this. Yilin. Dumbledore, do you remember your last student? Which one? Zikizajki. Oh, you mean him. Before Adeng had time to feel sad and nostalgic, Yilin, who had been listening in, suddenly reacted. You mean, their spells are actually engraved on their bodies. When Adeng heard this, he came back to his senses. He blew his beard and shook his head. Impossible. The human body cannot withstand the power of crystal. It will explode. This is not the first time Adeng has mentioned this theory. Human beings can indeed carve lines on their bodies. The premise is that you are not afraid of death. There are also ancestors who have heroically verified this theory with their lives. But, what if they are not human? Yilin already had an idea. Before leaving the prison, Yilin once again passed by the cell of Mermaid Queen Saren. In the water tank, Saren slowly swung her fishtail, making ripples in the water. She looked at Yilin's back with a gentle gaze. Yilin left in a hurry without chatting with Sirian. After leaving the cell, Yilin immediately took out the communication crystal and contacted her friends who were wreaking havoc in various areas of the city. I found the 6 evil generals. Where? There are 6 bosses in the palace. Isn't this nonsense? Who the hell doesn't know that there are 6 boss? Aren't there 4 left? We're catching up with them again, Li Erpang gasped, as if he was being chased until his butt was on fire. Yes, he took the time to hold the crystal and replied, you kid, don't be alone this time. You have experience and equipment, let's share it with everyone. Don't you have a divine sword? What else do you want? Speaking of the word Excalibur, Li Erpang felt as if he was getting an electric shock and cried loudly in the communication crystal. After beating Li Erpang hard to shut him up, Yilin explained, the name of the boss is 6 people. 6 in 1 means 6 but also 1. Ning Yu, is there still such a way to play? Xiao Chuer, what's your level? Yilin, can't see. After a moment of silence in the communication channel, Ning Yu smiled bitterly, I'm beginning to believe that the 6 evil general boss you killed before was suffering from diarrhea. Yilin, anyway, the plan has changed. The chaos lasted all night. The guards all over the city were also evacuated overnight. Although the 3 brave companions and a dog did not cause much damage to the kingdom of Amara. It's extremely insulting. Especially that wretched fat man. Instead of knocking on places heavily guarded by soldiers, he would mess with the roadside decorations, the curtains of women's bathrooms, the pattern of pointed arches, the window grills of churches. It was as if that obscene fat man would do anything to disgust the guards. The methods have repeatedly refreshed the imagination of all guards. The Holy See made a decision that shocked the whole city. And this news spread throughout the Amara kingdom at the speed of light. No, no, no. His Majesty the Pope is going to publicly execute the prisoner in front of the palace. No, no, no. His Majesty the Pope is going to publicly execute the prisoner in front of the palace. No, no, no. His Majesty the Pope is going to publicly execute the prisoner in front of the palace. Silly boy, what's wrong with this? Let's go quickly and see the excitement. Those are all sinners who disobey the gods. Near noon. The square in front of the Amara Kingdom Palace was filled with people. There were more than a dozen layers of guards surrounding the perimeter, and their armors shone in the sunlight. The carefully polished weapons in the hands of the guards exuded a cold and murderous smell, and it seemed that even the air in the square became cold because of this. All the guards were more focused than ever. After all, they had been teased all night long. The guards held back an evil fire in their minds. That wretched fat man. That flying dog. The burrowing gopher. That beautiful and sexy beauty, with those flaming red lips, and the lotus tongue, tisk tisk tisk, cough cough cough. There is also the one who never appeared, but took the blame for the series of destructive acts, posing as the prophesied hero and the source of all evil. The guards quietly surrounded the square. They recalled the faces on the wanted poster over and over in their minds. Make sure that if chaos breaks out later, you won't kill the wrong person. In the deliberately isolated open area, in the center of the square, there is a large fish tank and a prison van. In the prison car, the four old men looked at the crowd from time to time, whistling and boasting, with high-spirited expressions. I have never been admired by so many people in my life. You call this kind of occasion admiration? Aimee wished she could beat a Deng to death with an engineer's staff. Although they were already dying. It doesn't matter, I'm old. It doesn't really make much difference whether he dies of old age or is executed. It's hard on you. Aiden suddenly sighed, looked at Syrian in the fish tank not far away, and said slowly. Saren smiled slightly and responded to Adeng's expression of regret, but shook her head slightly and said, "It doesn't matter, I'm older than you." Adeng. The 6 red-robed congregants arrived not far away from the criminals without making any sound. Stand straight. After taking their positions, the 6 mysterious men, all wrapped in red robes, made no move. Even the slight rise and fall of the robe is invisible, and it looks like 6 sculptures. Under the spotlight, surrounded by a group of nuns and high priests, Li Changa finally appeared on stage. High Priest Gil carefully held Li Changa's cloak with a respectful and humble expression. Li Changa, wearing a gorgeous robe studded with crystals, full of jewels and coquettishness, and a crown on his head, slowly strode out of the palace. The moment Li Changa appeared, the whole world was silent. It was like he had an indescribable temperament. When he appeared on the stage, no one dared to make too much noise for fear of ruining this ritualistic way of appearing. It's eerily quiet here. If someone couldn't help but let out a fart at this moment, it might be as loud as a bombardment. Li Changa walked for a full minute with the support of the Vatican staff. He walked deliberately, very slowly, very slowly, very slowly. In order to have enough time, let the people of Amara Kingdom fully admire his handsome face. God's light shines on you. God will bless you with happiness, good health, and family harmony. Li Changa thought for a while and held back a line. Although the lines are a bit crude, it doesn't matter. After Li Changa finished speaking, he smiled slightly. In an instant, a golden light fell from the sky. The passionate BGM, like the prelude to a square dance, resounded throughout the audience. Naked little angels, gates to heaven, 7-color aurora, petals all over the sky, dragons wagging their tails, all kinds of messy special effects, as if for free, piled up messily in the sky above the kingdom of Amara. Although some of the special effects looked confusing to the public. But this is so powerful, it is enough to shock people. When that gorgeous scene appeared, all the guards, people, nuns, and priests all kneeled on the ground subconsciously. He shouted, "Auranos on top! Auranos on top! Auranos on top!" Everyone was shouting the name of the Creator God. Auranos, no one in this world knows it, no one knows it. Legend has it that Auranos created this world, created everything, and created 6 giant beasts on the sea of clouds for human beings to live, reproduce, and survive. There are also legends that the gods are too busy to take care of the needs of each of their subjects, so the holy sea of Auranos was created to listen to the voices of each of its subjects on behalf of the gods. As the Pope with the most special effects in the history of the Holy See, the Pope who most often caused the god Uranus to perform miracles, he naturally received the support of everyone and became the spokesperson of God. He became the incarnation of the god Uranus on the sea of clouds, loved and respected by everyone. The petals are all over the sky, dancing and falling. There are cherry blossoms, chrysanthemums, cauliflower, and broccoli. The flower petals floated into various shapes in the golden light. Everyone couldn't help but raise their heads and gradually became immersed in the sea of flowers. This is something only a god can do. It can be called a miracle. Not coming yet. Haha, I raised my pillow and meditated all night, and found that you actually care about the lives of these NPCs. You really seem to be getting better and better as you live. Li Chang'e tensed up his emotions and continued to activate Rhapsody, but he smiled coldly in his heart. Preaching the will of the gods, the evil mermaid clan, disobeying the will of the gods and intending to bring trouble to the world, deserve to die. The arrogant engineering school that preaches God's will, ignores divine authority, and intends to use science to disrupt the world order, should be destroyed. Execution. Amidst the rain of flowers and special effects from the sky, Li Chang'e's mighty voice was overwhelming and reached everyone's ears. It was like a divine voice, magnificent and vast. Everyone knelt lower, became more convinced, and did not dare to raise any voice of doubt. Several guards raised their heavy hammers and came to the large water tank. Li Chang'e smiled slightly and looked at Sirian, who looked calm. Legend has it that as long as the mermaids get out of the water, they will turn into bubbles and disappear. This is God's punishment for you mermaids. Your setting in this world is an evil life. That's why when you were created, it comes with such a fatal flaw. Saren chuckled lightly, not afraid of the fate she was about to face. You are wrong. Saren crossed her arms on her chest, closed her eyes, and looked pious. Reality is shattered and illusion remains forever. Death for us is just returning to the warmth of our home. Goodbye, Ge Lang. Goodbye, old friend. Far away. Blacksmith Ge Lang looked at the elegant and noble figure in the fish tank with a stern face, and drank the strong wine in the pot in one gulp. Go home, Selen. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 413. Although Li Chang'e seemed to be showing off on the surface. In fact, he is also showing off. But he has already achieved the state of multitasking. While showing off, he was also wary of his surroundings. He is waiting. Everyone here is waiting. Following Li Chang'e's order, several guards carrying hammers came to the large water tank with heavy steps. The heavy hammer was raised high. Those are all hammers used for casting. As he swung it, the black shadow cast by the hammer completely blocked the light in front of Saren. Saren closed her eyes. The expression shows no fear. She had finished saying goodbye. Enough. Smash. Li Chang'e smiled coldly. Don't say you have a heart of steel and are cold-blooded. No matter how realistic these NPCs are, no matter how they simulate human emotions, they are still just NPCs. To put it bluntly, it is just a piece of data in the virtual world. To put it more bluntly, NPC, non-player character, is not a human being. What's there to care about if you're not a human being? I really don't know what is going on in that guy's mind. The longer I live, the more I go back. But that's okay. If these guys in this era are really so naive that they can't bear even a piece of data, it will be even more good news for Li Chang'e. If they don't show up, Li Chang'e doesn't care. The trend is general. Li Chang'e was full of confidence in his plan. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the crowd. Gilialo. A round bead rolled out from the crowd. A dog flew up high with a shy face. With a flick of its tail, several round black balls drew parabolas in the air and were thrown into the field. Wang Tiandi, who had been lurking in the crowd for a long time, stayed back after shaking his tail, as if he had never bubbled up before. Gilialo. Let go of that mermaid. Li Er's short, chubby body was completely obscured by the sea of people. At this time, height became Li Erpang's only advantage. A thunderous roar came from the crowd, but in the turbulent and dense sea of people, it was impossible to find the source of the sound, and could only vaguely discern the direction. Boom! 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 As a dog flew high and an obscene voice broke the silence, and then several small balls were thrown into the square. These successive changes made Li Chang'e, the guards, civilians, nuns, and priests confused. There was a moment of panic. What the hell? All those who watched a few small balls rolling into the square had not had time to ask questions. The beads exploded one after another. The moment Li Chang'e heard the explosion, he lay on the ground subconsciously, holding his head in his hands, showing a strong desire to survive. Thick black smoke spread from each exploded bead. It's a smoke bomb. Be careful. There's something going on. Cough cough cough. Rumble. I'm just standing here and you hit me. Under the fish tank, an undetectable voice suddenly came out. Immediately afterwards, the ground under the fish tank suddenly collapsed. Mermaid Queen Saren had long been mentally prepared to die heroically, but when the ground sank, the sudden change made Saren's expression froze and she was at a loss. From the moment Li Erpang appeared in the crowd and shouted "Let go of that mermaid," to the appearance of the flying dog, to the explosion of the smoke bomb, and the collapse of the ground where the fish tank was located, this series of changes, the whole process was almost completed within a few seconds, and the connection was seamless. Almost no one can react. After listening to Emperor Song Agi Anthony's order, he picked up a hammer and prepared to smash the fish tank, causing the heinous criminal, Mermaid Queen Saren, to turn into bubbles in the air. After a moment of surprise, the guard was still stunned. He gritted his teeth, braved the thick smoke, and blindly knocked the hammer in his hand towards the place where the fish tank was originally. After all, they have received professional training and are the elite among the elite in the Holy See. In the sudden change, they quickly made adjustments and completed His Majesty the Pope's order first. But it's still slow. The hammer failed and struck the loneliness. The inertia of the hammer missing, coupled with the panic of losing sight, caused the guard who knocked on the fish tank to fail to maintain his balance for a moment, and rolled directly on the spot. Following the direction of the hammer hitting empty, he rolled in a circle on the ground, with his head above his head. Injury figures of varying degrees appeared one after another. Be careful. Someone is trying to hijack the prison car. Everyone, be careful. In the billowing smoke, Li Chang'e immediately jumped up from the ground, but his expression was not embarrassed, as if the extremely desperate posture just now had never happened before. As long as he is thick-skinned and moves fast enough, he can pretend that nothing happened. Prison van hijack. Ha ha ha. Innocent. Li Chang'e smiled coldly. Driven by strong emotions such as anger, disdain, arrogance, and self-confidence, the sky above his head was filled with flying petals, golden light, BGM, and various special light effects, which blinded everyone's eyes. Do you think this is a movie? You are the king of return. I, the great actor, Don't want to lose face anymore. Everyone obeyed the order, and they just hid here for me. For this Pope, put these gods, all the criminals will be found. After all, it was just the chaos caused by a few smoke bombs. Under the control of well-trained guards, the chaos was quickly controlled. In just 1 minute, the civilians were kneeling on the ground, not daring to move. As soon as the civilians knelt down, no matter how short Li-Er was, no matter how much he had the advantage of height, he was still like a white pig running on the green prairie among the crowd of people kneeling, so conspicuous, so dazzling, so brilliant. That damn fat guy is over there. Kill. And his wife. Because Shenji Unsusu has been following Li Erpang closely. Inseparable. Inseparable. Buttocks hand over. Intimacy. Ordinary guards have never seen a real divine sword. So they mistakenly thought that Shenji Unsusu was Li Erpang's daughter-in-law, which was understandable. Li Erpang immediately became angry. He put his shield in front of him and roared. Who the hell is my wife? Get out of here. Bulls are charging. Li Erpang, who weighed more than 200 kilograms of fat, was like a heavy tank, charging wantonly among the crowd. Li Erpang's level was not low at the moment. Under the effect of the skill, the guards were rushed high into the air and fell heavily under the terrible impact. Although the damage caused by Li Erpang was not high, it was extremely insulting. You are indeed a professional tank. This simple sentence and one skill actually took away 70% of the guards' hatred. Xiao Chuer was wearing the wanted person cloak and was hiding in the crowd. She saw the civilians around her kneeling down one after another. Knowing that she could no longer hide it, she smiled charmingly, took off her cloak, and showed off her sexy waist and figure. Blowing a kiss to the guards from time to time, with red hearts shining. With the blessing of innate skills, each of the guards turned into nymphos in an instant and completely fell under Xiao Chuer's pomegranate skirt. Xiao Chuer quickly moved around the field, using this method to avoid entering a combat state, and was ready to run away if the situation was not right. Let's talk later. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer originally disagreed with this plan. After all, it was not worth taking such a risk for a mere NPC. But when Yilin said that this plan had a good chance of solving the 6 evil generals together, the two had no choice but to agree. The NPC may not be saved, and Li Chang'e may not be killed, but in order to complete the main mission and clear the game as a player, the 6 evil generals' boss must be killed, otherwise the two of them cannot complete the main mission. Unable to leave this world. By the way, if Li Chang'e is a good player, he must be a villain. As soon as this matter was brought up, no matter how handsome Li Chang'e was, Xiao Chuer's fan instantly turned negative and she was no longer a die-hard fan of Li Chang'e. Time passed by minute. The damn fat man is still on the rampage. The dog is flying in mid-air. Xiao Chuer kept retreating. Ningyu is still digging holes underground. The chaotic situation continues. But under the terrible human sea tactics, just 3 people and 1 dog were unable to cause much trouble, and the final outcome can be imagined. Li Chang'e stood proudly, unmoved. The expression is calm, full of style. This is my, Li Chang'e's territory, and I have the final say on my territory. He has laid a dragnet in the city. Today is the day to complete the mission of this world and retire with success. Oh, I, Li Chang'e, am destined to. Li Chang'e slowly raised his hand, lowered his eyes, smiled at the corner of his mouth, and his starry eyes flashed, ready to say the line he had been preparing for a long time. What is that? Suddenly, someone pointed to the sky. The special effects created by Li Chang'e are still floating in the sky. Rays of golden light, seemingly free of charge, hit Li Chang'e's head. Li Chang'e's whole body seemed to be bathed in golden light, like a miracle. God's spokesperson, truly worthy of the name. As some people exclaimed, more and more people stopped what they were doing out of curiosity. What the hell? Not only the enemy troops, but also the friendly troops were stunned. Li Erpang was carrying the shield and subconsciously raised his head. His narrow eyes widened in surprise. In the initial plan Yilin made, she did not tell others the location Yilin was responsible for. Yilin has always liked to hide and tuck in. As Yilin's teammates, Li Erpang and others are used to being tricked. After carefully considering that there was nothing too outrageous about his part, he reluctantly joined the plan. A figure, relying on Li Chang's special light effect, slowly descended from the sky. There's someone in the sky. Is it a god? Has the god appeared spiritually? It's so dazzling, I can't see clearly. Damn it! The pretentious line that Li Chang'e was about to say suddenly got stuck in his throat and he couldn't spit it out. It was as if a mouthful of old phlegm was stuck in his trachea at this moment, making Li Chang'e feel chest tightness, shortness of breath, dizziness, haziness, and heart palpitations. Various symptoms caused the special effects brilliance in the sky to suddenly appear disconnected. That bitch! How dare you use my special effects to make your debut? Li Chang'e finally regained his breath and almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. But after getting angry, Li Chang'e smiled sinisterly again. Have you finally appeared? What I have been waiting for is this moment when I will catch you all. Snapped. Li Chang'e snapped his fingers angrily and left. The 6 people had been waiting there for a long time. The light flashed, and the 6 people acted in unison. They were bathed in golden light in the air, and Yilin, who was using Li Chang's special effects to show off, flew over quickly. Haha, I'm sorry, I stole your special effects. In the special effects that fill the sky, Yilin comes through the air. He faced the 6-in-1 boss coming towards him, but he calmly turned over his hand and took out a delicate revolver. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xuexi. Chapter 414. Sky full of special effects. Yilin fell from the sky. Like a god. In this world, follow the rules. Ordinary citizens have never seen anyone who can fly. The 6 men in red robes flying in the sky and Yilin falling from the sky were enough to calm the ordinary citizens, and they knelt even lower. Now, it's not just Li Chang'e who wants to say shit. Even Yilin's teammates were saying hum in their hearts. This one must be given full marks. Speaking of which, how does a serious assassin player fly in the sky? Magic. Can you please stop cheating so obviously, you bastard? Yilin faced the menacing 6 people, but calmly took out the death revolver from the props. Showtime. For some reason, this feeling of being in the spotlight made him feel a little nostalgic. It seemed that there had been a similar scene in my subconscious. But his memory was sealed and he couldn't remember it for a while. Skillfully loading the gun, pulling the safety, Yilin quickly pulled the trigger. Bang 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 bang. 5 bullets were fired one after another. The moment the 5 bullets came out of the chamber, a super mini magic pattern appeared on the muzzle of the revolver. If you didn't look carefully, you would probably miss it. Thank you, Blacksmith Ge Lang. This special engineer's staff was finally completed and could be used in actual combat. It was really a big debt to Blacksmith Ge Lang. After completing the construction of the spell pattern on Death Revolver, Yilin was stumped at the last level. That's the core. Without crystal energy as the core driving technique, no matter how powerful the technique is, it will be like a castle in the air and cannot function. Yilin originally wanted to cut grooves into the Death Revolver and embed crystals in the nodes. But Yilin later discovered that the Death Revolver, as the engineer's staff, could only be used to construct patterns, let alone inlaid the core. But last night, Yilin had an idea. Can the crystal be made into the shape of a bullet, and after activating the spell in the gun barrel, the crystal can be shot out to have a long-range effect. Yulin read many related books in the library on the 54th floor of the Great Engineer Tower. The more he thought about it, the more he thought this method was feasible. So Yulin found blacksmith Ge Lang, who was drinking alone in the city overnight. He took out a lot of inventory and asked the blacksmith Ge Lang to shape the crystal into the shape of a bullet. Blacksmith Ge Lang is truly worthy of being a man who has been single for decades. His skills are astonishing. With just a few strokes of his fingers, he can turn a crystal into a bullet. This scene made Yulin see the terrifying nature of blacksmith Gelang's Kylin arm, and she was deeply impressed. Just this move made Yulin feel ashamed. The light of the crystal bullet exploded completely. In the gap between Yulin's bullets, the 6 people were silent just like last night. The 6 corners of Yulin floating in the air were ready to trap Yulin. Li Chang'e knew that Yulin had chosen the assassin profession and was good at sneaking, so he chose this method of trapping first and then killing to prevent Yulin from running away again without practicing martial ethics. If you have a good mental attitude, which assassin profession should you choose? So insidious. Li Chang'e felt indignant. But the 6 people didn't have time to act yet. The exploding crystal bullet exploded in the air and turned into countless fine dust and light spots, which scattered and fell. Yulin smiled slightly. In an instant, under the countless crystal dust floating in the sky, Yulin appeared out of thin air one by one, appearing strangely in every corner of the venue. At a glance, it's all urine. Every Yulin looks lifelike and extremely realistic. And it seems that it is not just an illusion. Every Yulin has a kind smile on his face, strolling among the guards, as if he is visiting his own back garden. The first person to react was not Li Chang'e, but a Deng. It's projection. In the prison car, May also stared wide-eyed. When have you ever seen a projection technique that can be used like this? Axie's lips twitched slightly. The technique can actually be released remotely in this way? It's outrageous. On the square, the sudden appearance of dozens of brave men caused the guards to fall into a brief chaos. They all raised their weapons and chopped at Yulin, who suddenly appeared next to them, without mercy. After all, His Majesty the Pope had already issued a secret order. Once you see a brave dog, or little friend, kill first and ask questions later. No need to talk nonsense. But the guards' maces, knives, spears, and 2-handed swords all stabbed through the air and passed through Yulin's chest. The expected light of God did not arrive as promised. Li Chang'e was worthy of his background as an illusion player. When Yulin's bullets turned into countless phantoms, he reacted immediately, his pupils narrowed, and he ordered the 6 people who suddenly stopped in the air. Don't worry about those fake ones, the one in the sky is the real thing. When the 6 people heard the words, the light of the technique lit up again. A prison with flowing light appeared out of thin air, completely trapping Yulin in mid-air. Yet, in the square, every Yulin sneered and walked towards Li Chang'e with a smile. Yulin's voice seemed to come from the mouth of every projection, and also seemed to come from behind. It was vast, ever-changing, and unpredictable. How dare you do anything in front of my best actor? Li Chang'e gritted his teeth. He was angry. This was clearly how he dealt with Yulin last night. But he didn't expect that the other party would use the same move to hit his face the next day. Shameless. How could you be so shameless? This is a naked provocation. Gilialo. Each Yulin's projection is lifelike, with vivid eyes. It's hard to imagine that those are just fake projections. If Li Chang'e hadn't been well informed and had a stable mentality, the scene of the same person gathering towards him from different directions with the same smile and the same look would have been enough to make one's scalp numb. This smile is so terrible. No one noticed that out of nowhere, smoke bombs rolled into the vicinity of the prison car in the midst of the chaos. At the same time, in mid-air, Yulin, who was completely trapped by the 6 people's spells, smiled slightly, waved to Li Chang'e from high in the air, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Fake, fake, fake. When Li Chang'e saw it, he was so angry that blood suddenly sprouted from his gums. Boom. 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 Everyone, be careful. It exploded again. The guards who had just regrouped once again fell into chaos. The scene was completely filled with smoke. This wave of smoke offensive was far more intense than the first wave thrown by Li Erpang and Guzi. Thick smoke billowed, completely blocking everyone's vision. Li Erpang, Wang Tiandi, Xiao Chuer and Ning Yu, even though they were Yi Lin's teammates, were caught off guard by Yi Lin's brilliant appearance and strange abilities. Although his teammates have long been accustomed to Yi Lin's cheating behavior. But in front of everyone and everything, they could actually cheat so blatantly. Apart from the word admire, they didn't know what to say. Cough cough cough. Everything happened in a flash of lightning. Rapid changes in the situation come one after another, which is overwhelming. Everyone was shrouded in thick smoke, with visibility less than 3 meters. Li Chang'e felt bad. Damn it! Li Chang'e uttered a translation accent inexplicably. Is that guy really doing this for a long time just for these few NPCs? No, it's impossible. I don't believe that as an apostle, he would be so naive. He must have other purposes. Must. Li Chang'e covered his mouth and nose. No one noticed that when Li Chang'e was in emotional turmoil, the various light effects in the sky had already collapsed into a mosaic and could no longer maintain the gorgeous scene. Li Chang'e doesn't care about that much now. His mind was spinning rapidly, and in the confusion, he was thinking about the purpose of Yi Lin's move. Suddenly, something cold and hard gently touched the side of Li Chang'e's neck. You guessed it right, do you want to give you an award? Best Actor. Suddenly, Li Chang'e's whole body was stiff and his legs were straight. Yi Lin looked calm and stood behind Li Chang'e. He shaped the question mark divine sword into a short sword and pressed it against the side of Li Chang'e's neck. Do not move. Don't think that I can't kill you because this game world is turn-based. Yi Lin narrowed his eyes, spoke softly, and smiled kindly. Believe me, I have plenty of ways to avoid the turn-based system. Li Chang'e slowly raised his hand. He didn't dare to look back and remain silent. Seeing that Li Chang'e was very cooperative, Yi Lin nodded with satisfaction. Your skill, Rhapsody, I have observed it and it has two shortcomings. First of all, when there are strong emotional fluctuations, those hallucinations will have an obvious sense of fragmentation, and even twist into twists, just like that. The thick smoke thinned slightly, and Yi Lin smiled and pointed at the already shapeless scene in the sky. Secondly, I don't know how you used Rhapsody to create a clone that looks just like the real thing. But according to the principle of projection, if the movements of the projection clone are to be realistic and flexible enough, a positioning is indispensable. The process of... I guess, it's probably your sight? You can't create a clone where your eyes can't see. Right. Click. Suddenly, the silent Li Chang'e made a crisp sound from his mouth. It's like a broken tooth. Creating smoke is not just to create chaos. It is to confirm that you are the real thing, not a fake. Yi Lin pressed the knife on Li Chang'e's neck, but controlled the intensity to just enough to press into the skin without drawing a trace of blood. Once damage is caused to Li Chang'e, the rules of the game will easily come into play, and the two will fight each other in a turn-based system. Even if she had a fight with Li Chang'e with real guns and knives, Yi Lin would not suffer. But this kind of thing should be avoided if possible. The turn system is a great restriction on Yi Lin's strength. If it weren't for the rules of the turn system, Yi Lin would have overturned this place long ago. Why waste time with Li Chang'e here? This game world is really unscientific. In order to prevent players from cheating, they really do everything possible. In Li Chang'e's complicated eyes of hatred and shock, Yilin took out another object from the props. Drops of saint's blood. You hide this thing very well. Yilin waved it in front of Li Changa's eyes as if showing off, and then quickly put it away. You guessed it right, my real purpose is not the NPC, but the mission. So, as if by magic, Yilin took out another red knife, flipped her wrist, and bit by bit, inch by inch, the tip of the knife approached Li Changa's pupils. Goodbye. The tip of the knife is approaching inch by inch. Gudong. The sound of Li Changa swallowing saliva echoed in his own ears. He knew this guy was extremely cruel. As he said, he might have many ways to escape the turn-based rules. Wait a minute. Li Changa suddenly shouted, negotiation. Negotiation. The approaching knife tip suddenly stopped. Yilin smiled, I've got what I want, what else is there to talk about? Li Changa pursed his lips, and after a moment of silence, he said, but since you chose to take action at this time, it means that these NPCs are still useful to you, right? You must have tasks related to them. So, negotiate. Li Changa grasped the key instantly. Oh. Behind Li Changa, Yilin changed his voice, quite smart. So what? What I'm more curious about now is whether players can explode any equipment when they kill players. The explosion rate in this game is really low. Maybe player PK is the correct way to open the game. Li Changa frowned suddenly when he heard this. He vaguely noticed something. Yilin continued, your bargaining chip is dispensable to me. Li Changa's frown suddenly relaxed. Without any further hesitation, he slowly took out a keychain. Li Changa moved slowly and gently, fearing that two drastic movements would cause the thug to misunderstand, and then cut him off with a knife while shaking his hands. This is the key on their neck cuffs. There are corresponding numbers on the key. Without the key, you can't rescue them. Let me tell you in advance, I haven't leveled up at all, and I don't have any valuable equipment on me. If you kill me, you won't be able to save them at all. It's of no use. 1 life in exchange for 5 of their lives. It's absolutely worth it. It's worth twice as much. Li Changa was afraid that Yilin would not change, so he quickly showed a dog-licking smile. Look, it's so boring to kill me. We are all players, we are born from the same roots, why should we rush each other? It seems you were the one who made the first move, right? Well, I was confused for a moment, No one is a sage, who can make mistakes. Hey, you, sir, there are many, but we are separated here, and we will still be good friends in the future. During Yilin's negotiation with Li Changa, the effect of the smoke bomb gradually wears off. Many figures also appeared faintly in the square. Although it is not clear yet, the current chaotic situation cannot last long. After a moment of silence, Yilin took the key from Li Chang's. After he carefully identified the attributes displayed on the key, Yilin secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Attribute certification, there is no doubt that it is genuine. No matter how weird Li Chang's rhapsody is, it should not be able to deceive the rules of the game. Ningyu. Yilin threw the keychain into the smoke. Ningyu was already waiting beside the prison car. Everything goes according to plan. I actually got the key. Ningyu conducted a series of deductions before the action began. He couldn't imagine how Yilin could trick Li Changsong into getting the key to the handcuffs on the NPC's neck. Unexpectedly, it was successful. While sighing, Ningyu used the fastest speed to check the handcuff codes on the necks of Syrian and the fourth old man before the guards could react, and found the corresponding keys respectively. After handing over the keys, Li Changa forced an ugly smile on his face. You agreed to let me go? Brother, you have to be kind. There's no rush, Yilin said with a smile, wait until I confirm that the key is genuine. Li Changa lowered his head. His shoulders hunched slightly, as if he was suppressing some emotion. In the fish tank, after Mermaid Queen Saren caught the key, she stared at the key in her hand, hesitated for a moment, then stared at Yilin from a distance, and smiled. "Thank you, it's okay." After a pause, Saren said something incomprehensible. "Believe it and jump." After saying that, Saren fumbled and inserted the key into the keyhole of the cuff around her neck. The other side. The four old men in the prison car did not expect that they would be able to turn around at this point. They also had sad expressions and were about to open the cuffs on their necks. "It doesn't matter?" But Syrian's words made Yilin look slightly startled. "Thanks. It doesn't matter? Believe it? Jump. What's the meaning?" These nonsense words made Yilin feel that something was wrong. This game world is really weird. Yilin's every move and experience on the back of each giant beast seemed to follow a certain script, a certain prophecy, to act. It seems that everything is destined in some unknown way. Yilin was not familiar with Queen Syrian, but Ningyu said that Queen Syrian has magical power and can locate the 6 bosses in the vast sea of clouds. What she said must have profound meaning. At this moment, Li Changa's shoulders were still shaking. Yilin's brain had a short circuit for a moment. To be precise, it's not a short circuit. Instead, the time around him seemed to stand still. Every word and expression of Li Changa flashed through Yilin's mind like a revolving lantern. As her brain was running at high speed, Yilin felt that just 1 second seemed like several minutes had passed. "Don't drive." The moment she figured it out, Yilin shouted at several people. Click. But as soon as Yilin said the word farewell, the smiling Saren and the 4 great engineers who couldn't wait to return to freedom immediately stirred the correspondence key into the twist it gently in the keyhole on the neck cuff. In the chaos, the sound of the key rubbing against the keyhole was clearly audible and reached Yilin's ears. After turning the key, the fine lines on the cuffs on the necks of the 4 people and 1 fish began to glow with the light of crystals. Saren closed her eyes. The expressions on the faces of the 4 great engineers changed again and again. First there was joy, then surprise, then confusion, and finally only a relaxed and happy smile remained. "You little bastard." Adeng smiled and waved to Yilin as if saying goodbye. "Remember, trust the science." Hiss. The other 3 old men also looked at Yilin with kind eyes. 1 second later, the smiles on the faces of the Mermaid Queen Saren and the 4 great engineers were completely frozen, blood spurted out, and the heads of the 4 people and 1 fish slowly slid off. The fish tank was completely stained red with blood. "Congratulations. Kill Mermaid Queen Saren. Get experience. Congratulations. Kill Engineer Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Get experience." Dazzling reminders flashed across the screen in front of Yilin's eyes. It's not just Yiren. Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, Li Erpang, and Wang Tiandi, who were in a team, received prompts to kill NPCs at the same time. Everyone was stunned. They were completely unable to react to this sudden change. The NPCs are all dead? And they killed them with their own hands? This bloody experience fell on them? The moment of astonishment gave Li Erpang a fatal hesitation in his bull crash. The guards, who had been clinging to Li Erpang in the faint smoke, seized the opportunity after Li Erpang hesitated and struck Li Erpang on the back with a knife. Suddenly, the sophisticated equipment was like a piece of paper under the guards' weapons. It was torn open with a bloody gash, and the skin and flesh were torn. The phantom of the scale fell from the sky. Li Erpang and the 5 red monsters were instantly shrouded in the turn-based aura. The guards, who were holding back their anger, seemed to have been waiting for this opportunity for thousands of years. After the turn system started, each of the red-named monsters, who were more than 1 level faster than Li Erpang, did not even hesitate and struck Li Erpang in the face with a knife. "Li Erpang, the battle begins." "Ha ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha." Li Changa, whose neck was pressed by Yilin's knife, finally burst out with emotions that he had suppressed for a long time, looking up to the sky and laughing. Li Chang'e looked crazy, like a complete madman. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Are you happy or not? Ha ha ha. You have to thank me. I've given you a lot of experience points. Ha 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 ha. He 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 he. After a brief moment of astonishment, Yilin's pupils, which rapidly changed in diameter, were completely fixed. Boundless killing intent spreads in the bottom of my heart. Poison-quenching dagger. Tearing dagger. Just dragging the knife down Li Chang'e's neck may not kill Li Chang'e instantly. Yilin laughed angrily, the shape of the question mark sword in his hands changed, and the red and green skill light suddenly appeared. Before the debuff damage could rebound, Yilin took action with anger, a complete set of combos, and stabbed Li Chang'e in the back. Kill. Before that, Yilin had been hesitating whether to really kill this damn player. After all, this is no ordinary game. There is no resurrection mechanism in this game. Once you die, you are truly dead. Even though Li Chang'e had chased and killed them all before, Yilin had never really had murderous intentions towards Li Chang'e. Whether it is just moral restraint, or some deeper reasons. In short, Yilin's original purpose was just to find a way to rescue Deng and others. Ken. They are dead. They are obviously NPCs. But at this moment, Yilin felt that there was a certain string in her heart, as if it had been stretched to the extreme, and as the heads of A and Deng's four fell, the string suddenly broke. Even Yilin didn't know why. As soon as the anger surged out of his heart, his mind seemed to be buzzing, and he regarded Li Chang'e as a monster and smashed it with a skill. The subsequent combos had not had time to stab Li Chang'e in the back. Yilin felt a chill on her forehead, and there was a strange cold feeling. With that cold feeling, the anger in Yilin's heart was instantly wiped away. It's like it's been sucked away by something. I can no longer be angry. There was only a kind of calm that even Yilin felt shivers down her spine. That kind of calm mood made Yilin feel incredible, even sad. He used his peripheral vision to look at the four people A and Deng who were separated from each other in the prison car again, and there was no trace of any fluctuation in his eyes. A huge damage figure popped up above Li Chang'e's head. Li Chang'e was forced to eat a combo of Yilin's moves, but he was not taken away. However, his arrogant laughter was forcibly interrupted, and blood spurted from behind. Li Chang'e stumbled, and Yilin almost stepped into his stomach. Ascend to heaven. Following like a shadow. Shadow kill. Yilin once again turned into a shadow and wandered on the ground. Ready for the next set of combos. Although the anger in Yilin's heart disappeared strangely at this moment. But those who deserve to be killed must still be killed. Revenge that deserves revenge must still be avenged. But right now, when Yilin looked at Li Chang'e again, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes, which were as calm as a pool of stagnant water. As Yilin took action, a message appeared above Li Chang'e's head. 6 Evil Generals Undead Li Chang'e. LV. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 415. Li Chang'e? 6 Evil Generals. He is actually the boss. Yilin was surprised. He never expected it. Everyone thought that the player who was chasing them relentlessly was just siding with the hostile forces of the game. But he didn't expect that his identity was the boss certified by the system. He, Li Chang'e, is one of the 6 evil generals. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer, in the chaos, were also shocked by this sudden change and opened their mouths wide. The red name above Li Chang'e's head was so red that it turned purple, so purple that it turned bright and juicy. It's the undead. The moment Ning Yu reacted, his face looked horrified. What are undead? Xiao Chuer was dripping with sweat. She kept using her abilities to control the NPC, which also consumed a lot of her energy. Although the crystal energy consumed by the skill can be replenished with medicine. However, the consumption of physical energy depends entirely on the apostle's physical fitness. Apart from tonifying the kidneys and strengthening the body, there is no medicine to supplement it. Too careless. Ningyu smiled bitterly and quickly approached Xiao Chuer. This way, everything will be explained. Xiao Chuer. Why did we never meet any other apostles except the two of us during this trial? I thought at first that Li Chang'e entered this trial as an apostle. But the only thing that doesn't make sense is that we are all apostles, but there is no conflict in missions. Why would he die for us without hesitation? Perhaps you don't visit the Apostle Forum very often. I once saw someone mention in the Apostle Forum that in the trials with increased difficulty, you may encounter people who died in the trials and were resurrected in an alternative way. He opposed all the apostles and used various methods to hinder the apostles from passing the trials. Some people refer to this type of apostles who are reborn after death as undead. The undead are the enemies of all apostles. There is no reason and no need to hesitate. Once discovered, kill them directly without any mercy. Even if the person who becomes the undead is his former relative, lover, friend, or brother. The undead will definitely stand. This is the law in opposition to the apostle. The person who survived the trial at that time never responded after posting this post. 99% of the people, including me, thought it was just a joke. Xiao Chuer suddenly realized, indeed, few of what the apostle said can be believed. If you haven't witnessed it with your own eyes, it's normal for others not to believe it. Ningyu's smile became even more bitter. Now it seems that everyone except the two of us has been secretly eliminated by Li Chang'e. After Xiao Chuer was shocked, she calmed down after a while and said thoughtfully, so this trial should be the kind of trial that hides the death broadcast. Ningyu nodded. It seems that we have all fallen into misunderstandings. The rules in the trial are treacherous and changeable, and there is no fixed form. The more experienced apostles are, if they blindly believe in past experience in the trial, they will be different in minutes. A worse death. Strange, Xiao Chuer had another doubt. Li Chang'e is dead? How is it possible? In reality, as a hot and top public figure, once he dies, there should be many people taking advantage of him. His name should have been on the hot search list for a long time. Could it be that Li Chang'e's death was deliberately concealed? When Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were whispering after the shock. The other side. After Yilin frowned, he killed Li Chang'e again. If at the beginning there was some moral guilt about I'm sorry to be born as a human being, which made Yilin not so decisive in taking action, then when Li Chang'e became the boss, Yilin's only trace of moral guilt was completely disappeared without a trace. System certified boss. Boss is killed by players. No reason needed. Of course, Yilin still had many things that she couldn't figure out. This game world is getting weirder and weirder. Li Chang'e was clearly communicating with and hostile to them as a player with his identity and memory. But he turned out to be one of the 6 evil generals. Could it be that in the reality outside the game world, technology has developed to the point where ideologies can be uploaded to servers and copied and pasted at any time to create backups? The Li Chang'e in front of me is just a copy of a virtual memory. Although Yilin lost his memory, his cognition told him that human consciousness must be analyzed into codes and uploaded to the internet. This is a technology that only exists in theory. And Li Chang'e's attitude is also. Questions flashed through Yilin's mind. But Yilin quickly made the decision not to think too much and just kill him first. At this moment, any extra thoughts will only affect the speed of his sword. Under the influence of Yilin's 2 extremely insidious combination skills, Li Chang'e was unable to detect Yilin's movements. But even if he couldn't notice it, Li Chang'e knew very well that Yilin's next stab was about to come. This is experience. I didn't expect you to ignore the rules of the game world. However, your way of avoiding the turn system must have limitations. Humph. Li Chang'e snorted coldly and snapped his fingers in a hurry. Rhapsody scene change. With the snap of the fingers, the scenery in front of everyone changed in a trance. In the blink of an eye, the rows of spears, the holy see, and the royal palace completely changed into a completely different scene. Yilin's pupils shrank slightly, and after the scene changed, Li Chang'e mysteriously disappeared from sight again. Yilin and others raised their heads in surprise. The originally sunny sky turned from day to night after Li Chang'e snapped his fingers. A blood moon hung high in the sky, and scarlet mist filled the sky. There was a thick layer of blood beneath his feet, and the strong smell of blood hit his nostrils. In the shallow blood water, numerous bones twisted into various weird shapes, stacked up into mountains of corpses. And the high walls and spears of the palace were turned into piles of pale corpses with the snap of fingers. The heads were squeezed tightly together in the only space. The ferocious expressions, empty eyes, and bloody wounds were so lifelike that it was difficult to tell whether they were reality or an illusion. The world in front of me has a sudden change in painting style, from Gothic-style architecture to underworld disco style. Li Chang'e was standing under the corpse tower, looking at everyone with a smile. Those handsome starry eyes began to glow green. I, Li Chang'e, have a showdown. Li Chang'e smiled. But the smile was filled with the aura of the underworld, and combined with the green eyes, Li Chang'e looked like a fierce ghost who had returned from hell. His strength is so strong. Ningyu was completely stunned. No matter how Li Chang'e brought pressure to them before, it was just with the help of weapons from NPC forces. No one knew that Li Chang'e hid himself so deeply. This is an illusion. Yilin raised her head and looked at Li Chang'e from a distance. Everyone in this underworld scene seems to have seen the same illusion. The civilians completely collapsed on the ground, shivering. The guards were at a loss. The dog swung its tail and spiraled into the air, feeling quite at ease. Li Erpang was beaten to death by a group of guards in the turn-based system. Behind Li Erpang, Divine Sword Susu raised his head. There was no emotion on his muscular face, as if everything in front of him was not enough to arouse her emotional turmoil. Li Chang'e's mouth turned to his ears with a cold smile. This smile has no one to protect it? His strange green eyes quickly scanned everyone in the room, and finally landed on Yilin. It's a pity for you. Others will die clearly, but you will die here inexplicably. I thought it was strange at first. Your tone sounded like you didn't know your situation at all. He, is it amnesia? Or is it that the difficulty of the trial has been greatly increased for some reason? Nightmare difficulty? Eternal night difficulty. However, it is more likely that you used some kind of prop to cause such a result. After Li Chang'e guessed the general reason, he shook his head, but it doesn't matter. Soon, we'll be friends. Exist. That place. The 6 evil generals, 6 people in the air seemed to have received Li Chang'e's order, and they stopped attacking Yilin and scattered in 6 directions of the city. Bo. 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 Li Chang'e patted his arms again, and there was a soft sound of slapping hard objects in his arms. Get up and get to work. Heike, it's not yet time. But I have already shown my cards, Li Chang'e grinned. Black Chi. Hurry up. Believe it or not, I'm going to lift the table and quit. The worst I can do is die again, and you, haha. Black Chi. Li Chang'e felt the flask in his arms vibrate slightly, and the black air in the bottle seemed to be hesitating. He then said slowly, besides, I'm tired and don't want to play anymore. Well. The black air in the bottle let out a sigh. There was no further movement. But Li Chang'e nodded with satisfaction. Yilin stood there silently. He turned to look at the corpses of the 4 great engineers not far away, as well as a large fish tank filled with blood. Yilin closed her eyes and recalled what they said. Recalling all the doubts from the beginning to now. Recalling the information Li Chang'e revealed intentionally or unintentionally. Li Chang'e smiled and asked, do you have any last words? Yilin opened her eyes and asked, "What about you?" Li Chang'e curled his lips, "I won't say my last words a second time." "Then I don't need it?" Yilin smiled, a smile that no one could understand. "Then die." Li Chang'e waved his hand. The whole city was shaking crazily. Bloody light rose into the sky. Deep in the blood mist, one bloody spell after another was quickly outlined in the void. All changes outside the underworld scene are replaced by illusions and transformed into another style in the eyes of everyone. What you don't know is that the real ability of those 6 guys is actually the activation structure of the city's giant spell. The real boss is actually the city itself. Those old guys who died should know it best. He. However, they themselves did not expect that they would create such a big guy. Huge spells appeared in the sky, shining brightly. In the center of the technique, the shadow of the blood-colored light cannon is constructed. As the terrifying power began to brew in the central light cannon of the technique, everything in the air seemed to be trembling, filled with an aura called death, and even the space around the technique became strangely distorted. Li Chang'e is high-spirited despite his big reputation. Yilin smiled slightly. In front of Li Chang'e, he took out the communication crystal and whispered a few words to his friends and the dog. "Use any life-saving tools as soon as possible, otherwise you will have no chance in the future. In addition, please be prepared to upgrade." Finished. Yilin calmly took out the forgiveness of the benevolent and slapped it directly on her body. "I wish you all a happy new year. Also, thank you to Mr. Chubby Centipede for your continued support. Suck, the New Year's red envelope is so delicious." Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 416. At the same time. Titan Beast, Pagos. This is a world covered in ice and snow all year round. Amid the dancing snow, there is an ancient temple located among the mountains. Boom! Suddenly, the Snow Mountain Temple, which had been silent for countless years, suddenly collapsed. Rumble! Waves of turbulence coming from the depths of the temple caused the snow on the surrounding mountains to collapse suddenly, turning into rolling avalanches, burying everything under the snow-capped mountains. Immediately afterwards, a black shadow swept out from the collapsed Snow Mountain Temple, turned into a jet-black stream of light, quickly disappeared into the sky, and disappeared. What? In the strange scene, Li Erpang and the other 3 were stunned for a moment, and then they came to their senses. Something big is going to happen. Crack, click, click. In the air, strange sounds suddenly came from each giant spell. In the complete art pattern, somehow, cracks appeared, centered on a certain node or a certain section of the pattern, and quickly spread to the entire art pattern. Yilin looked up at the spell in the sky, her face as calm as water. Li Chang'e didn't notice the change in the technique, and still stood there, maintaining the illusion of rhapsody, while laughing endlessly. After a brief moment of astonishment, the guards suddenly discovered that the painting style around them was completely wrong. It didn't look like the painting style that God's spokesperson should have at all. They were at a loss where they were. In the distance, groups of NPCs with red names on their heads, walking in different styles, gathered here. Red-named NPCs gathered from every direction, with long names and titles displayed above their heads. Captain of the Godi 2nd Division, Zombie B. Captain of the Godi 6th Division, Byakuya. Captain of the Godi 10th Division Toshiro. Captain of the Godi 11th Division Kenpeiku. They were dressed in uniforms and wore single-handed long swords that had not been sheathed. They were walking in the illusion of the underworld with relaxed and comfortable expressions. They did not give the impression that they were about to join a war to annihilate criminals. Instead, they seemed to be on an outing, interacting with the surroundings. The eerie fantasy atmosphere is out of place. Li Erpang, Ning Yu, Xiao Chuer, and Wang Tiandi knew that something bad was going on. It was obvious that Li Chang'e had shown off his cards, and he stopped playing and pretending. All of their trump cards were played out in one fell swoop, and they were bound to be completely wiped out here. This NPC's level, equipment, and strength are far beyond what the miscellaneous soldiers of the Twin Lion Kingdom can compare to. If the only real threat to them in the Kingdom of Two Lions is the Sword Master Homeros, then the current formation in the Kingdom of Amara is equivalent to a dozen Homeros surrounding them, preparing to carrying out a frenzied siege, the kind that showed no mercy at all. It's over, it's over. Li Erpang was still fighting back and forth with the guards in the turn-based light circle. The guards beat Li Erpang without any pain or itching, and Li Erpang beat the guards with no pain or itching either. Now, under the turn-based protection mechanism, a tank like him with extreme defense points is the least likely to die. The little fat man felt clear in his heart. If the stalemate continued like this, he would be dead sooner or later. He has no output and cannot escape. Even if Li Erpang can survive to the end with his amazing defense, if he can't think of a way to break the situation, he will not be able to escape the tragic ending of being scraped to death. What to do? Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were back to back, stuck together. I didn't expect that there were only two of us left. A game with undead joining is really too confusing. No wonder there is little information about the presence of undead in the forum. First, it is deliberately hidden for sale, and secondly, a trial with undead joining is probably very likely. In the end, the group is wiped out, and very few people can make it out alive. Ningyu gritted his teeth and looked at the approaching GoDi-12 boss troops, feeling increasingly bitter in his heart. By the way, Ningyu took a deep breath and a strange smile appeared on his face. Do you still remember a piece of classical music? Ah, Xiao Chuer was stunned. What was Ningyu talking about? Back-to-back hugs. Xiao Chuer was speechless. Are you still thinking about picking up girls at this time? Haha, maybe we can get out alive together. Ningyu took out a prop from the props. Don't you think you are setting a death flag by saying this now? Xiao Chuer complained mercilessly, taking out the same prop at almost the same time as Ningyu. Tears of Mermaid. Rarity S. Effect used during combat. It can create a field that isolates all damage, but cannot be moved or attacked. It lasts for 4 rounds. Used on the map, lasts 10 minutes. Explanation: mermaid tears are very rare, because the moment they cry, their tears evaporate into the air, leaving no trace of their crying. But in very rare cases, the mermaid's tears will solidify into crystals and possess magical powers. They are destined to exist to protect someone throughout their lives. After Yi Lin reminded them, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer hesitated again and again. Facing the boss-level red monsters that came one after another, they had no choice but to believe Yi Lin's words and used mermaid tears. This can be said to be the last resort to save life, bar none. Once used, the two of them will be wrapped in a pile of warm water. The outside can't get in, and they can't get out. They can only stare. But not to mention, the water is somewhat comfortable. Xiao Chuer knocked on the inner wall of mermaid tears dissatisfied. If only this mermaid tears were not transparent, she could take advantage of these 10 minutes to take a good bath and try to fight the sea monster not long ago. Kulagan are the rare props that were revealed useful or not. Too fatty, mermaid's tears. Divine swords Susu and Erpang were connected by a chain. At this moment, Susu saw Li Erpang still stupidly fighting each other with the 5 red-named guards, and she showed unbearable expression and reminded. Yes. I still have this thing. After completing the side mission of Mermaid Wedding, Li Erpang was too sad because the mermaid girl suddenly died in love, so he didn't look carefully at the properties of mermaid tears and stuffed it directly into the prop slot. At this time, he was reminded by the divine sword Susu, and he suddenly remembered that he still had such a life-saving artifact in his bag. At this time, Li Erpang didn't have time to think too much. When it was his turn, The little fat man took out the prop without saying anything and slapped himself on the forehead. In an instant, an oversized blue water balloon enveloped Li Erpang and Susu at the same time. Wow, click, click. When Li Erpang saw that he was finally invincible, he raised his middle finger to the guard outside the water polo and raised his taunting skill to max instantly. I'm invincible. What's wrong with being invincible? Is it weird to be invincible? Who can't be invincible? Come and beat me. Come and beat me. Come here. But here is Sunze. Please be prepared to upgrade. Yulin calmly took out the forgiveness of the benevolent and took a picture of herself. Forgiveness of the benevolent. Rarity S. Effect: after using it on the target, the damage received will be reduced by 99% within 5 rounds. Used on the map, lasts 10 minutes. Explanation: it is far easier to kill than to forgive. In an instant, Yulin had an extra buff. A mediocre damage reduction item. At this moment, Wang Tiandi waved his tail without hesitation, and quickly flew to Yulin's feet like a helicopter, squatting and refusing to leave. Yulin lowered his head and glanced at the dog at his feet. The dog quickly gave out a standard dog-licking smile, fearing that Yulin would not understand the deep meaning of its smile. You really want me to protect you from harm? Woof. Gozu raised his thumb and paw at Yulin. It seems to be saying, you are really good at watching dogs. How on earth could a dignified dog make such a gesture? Li Chang'e suddenly noticed something was wrong. It shouldn't be. It should have been bombed down long ago. Li Chang'e raised his head and saw a strange scene. The spells that appeared in the sky cracked strangely and were still vibrating, as if they would collapse at any time. Do you know? Yulin took in Li Chang'e's puzzled expression, smiled, and said slowly, there was once a dedicated veteran driver who always told me that I must believe in science. You only know how to use NPCs' abilities to activate their spells, but you don't understand the scientific principles behind these spells at all. Li Chang'e. Yulin smiled and concluded, science and technology are the first combat power. In addition to being a high-end assassin, I am also a serious engineer. Boom. The moment Yulin said these words, the large array of magic patterns and light cannons that were shaking and full of cracks in the sky finally condensed. But the light cannon was crooked, as if it was drawn by a 3-year-old child while peeing, giving people a funny feeling. But it happened to be these funny-shaped light cannons. The muzzles of the cannons had accumulated light for a long time, and finally they poured out like shooting stars in all directions. Boom. 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 Call out. Call out. Call out. Call out. Call out. Bright rays of light tore through the sky. The light cannon phantom that was originally aimed at the square completely lost control and fired wildly in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the entire city was engulfed in flames. The scene before him was very similar to the day when Izada Port was destroyed, but the difference was that Li Chang'e's forces were also under this terrible artillery fire. Li Chang'e was stunned for a moment, but then he realized what was happening. He looked at Yulin with his green eyes, and his 2 rows of teeth chattered loudly. He thought of the 4 people and 1 dog who vandalized public property in the city last night. Originally, Li Chang'e just thought that they were just creating chaos. Unexpectedly, it turned out that at that time, you actually changed the city's spell. Yulin opened her mouth, about to say something. But with a thought in his mind, he took a step to the right. A bright light swept over him. -243. A number popped up above Yulin's head. Emperor Wang Tian at his feet was stunned. If Yulin didn't block it this time, it would probably turn into a grilled dog skewer, the sizzling and fragrant kind. Thinking of this, Wang Tiandi rushed forward, hugged Yulin's thigh, and hung on Yulin's lap completely, his smile gradually becoming more and more unrestrained. Base. A ray of golden light fell on Yulin's head, feeling comfortable all over. Congratulations. Level increased to LV75. Get God-given points. Assist in killing self-defense officer of the GODI 7 Squadron, Smoker /. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 417. The kingdom of Amara instantly turned into a purgatory on earth. It's not just because of Li Changa's fantasy. After Yilin made a few modifications to the technique of 6 evil generals 6 people, the light cannons bombed everywhere, no longer distinguishing each other, and completely went berserk. When Yilin was leveling up, she tried using the 2 heavens of ice and fire to spawn monsters. The experience of monsters all falls on his head. At this moment, Yilin and his teammates made some subversive changes to the spell in team mode. Most of the lives taken away by the spell became experience points for Yilin's team. In addition to the power of the Holy See itself, the Kingdom of Amara is a large city with a population of 500,000. With a blast of the light cannon, a large number of kill prompts flashed in front of Yilin's eyes. The screen flashed so fast that Yilin couldn't even see who he had killed. If Yilin had time to open the player panel at this time and look at the experience value column, she would find that the experience value number was jumping crazily at a terrifying speed, and even jumped out of the after image. The human eye simply cannot keep up with the speed of change in experience values. In addition to the reputation of the Holy See, the reputation of this country has plummeted, which is even more outrageous than the stock market crash. In a few breaths, he has dropped from neutral to hatred. One can imagine how fast this NPC died. Yilin suddenly felt that she was a little cruel. He was standing in the center of the city, watching helplessly as this once prosperous city quickly fell into ruin. Li Changa's expression changed. First there was shock. Anger follows. Later he laughed strangely again. Yilin was dragging a dog on her leg and was unable to activate Shadow Kill. The power of the magical light cannon is terrifying, and Yilin has the forgiveness of the benevolent, which can reduce the damage by 99%. But with this damage reduction buff that can be called cheating, Yilin ate a light cannon, which actually took away more than 200 of his health points. Without the forgiveness of the benevolent, he would have been smoothly killed by the original one. Instant kill. Of course, even without the forgiveness of the benevolent, Yilin had other ways to save his life. There were so many gaps in the ground. It would not be difficult for Yilin to escape by just finding a gap. But teammates and dogs are likely to die under this wave of horrific bombardment. Next. Yilin's eyes moved slightly. He skillfully ejected the magazine of the revolver, took out 5 crystal clear bullets, and stuffed them into the empty chamber with a snap. The whole process did not take more than 2 seconds. Multiple projection bombs. Yilin's light speed gave him a fancy name for a move that he had not had time to name not long ago. 6 bullets poured out, hitting various places in the illusion, turning into projections of Yilin, lifelike. What the projection replicates is Yilin's posture at this moment. What made Yilin almost couldn't help but laugh out loud was that on the legs of those projections, there were actually Wang Tiandi with a confused look on his face. It was so funny that it made people laugh. All Yilin, with dogs hanging on their legs, strode towards Li Changa with smiles on their faces. The forgiveness of the benevolent only has 10 minutes, and within these 10 minutes, Yilin must solve everything. Solution in various senses. Ha ha ha. Interesting. 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 I didn't expect you to hide such a skill. You are so insidious at this time. I never expected it. After Li Changa figured everything out, he laughed wantonly, and there was no longer anger, regret or other negative emotions in his eyes. As Yilin walked, she replenished the bullets of death revolver, but put away the revolver. Both hands smoothly switched weapons, and two small blood-red daggers were held tightly in Yilin's hands. Li Chang'e sneered, but his figure was slightly distorted. Yilin's face was expressionless, the red and green lights on the dagger lit up, and the skill was thrown, and it penetrated through Li Chang'e as expected. In just 10 seconds, two more rays of light passed by Yilin's body, taking away a small amount of health. On the spot, Li Chang'e, who had been exported by Yilin, was like broken glass, cracking all over the ground. Li Chang'e's head fell on the sticky blood. When he opened his eyes, only his head was left to look at Yilin. "Do you still want to use the smoke bomb? It's too late. In my scenario, I am the master here, my territory, I make the decision. There is no way you can find my true identity. It's just a fantasy," Yilin sighed. "I just have one more question. Did you and I have any grudge before?" "Hey, probably not." "Then I understand." Yilin took out another prop from the props. "There are too many props, which is really annoying." "The blessing of Auranos." Yilin slapped Uranos' blessing on her body. Prop usage failed. Please read the prop usage restrictions carefully. A dazzling reminder flashed in front of Yilin. Although the screen was flooded with various kill prompts and reputation loss prompts, Yilin paid attention to this prompt in advance. "No. Isn't this the so-called special scene? How special a scene would that be?" The prop unexpectedly failed to be used, and Yilin was speechless. He had no choice but to put away the blessing of Auranos and replace it with another mediocre comeback prop. It's troublesome to have too many props. If this continues, he is very likely to be cheating. Yilin frowned and slapped Uranus compromise on her body. The moment the prop turned into a stream of light and flowed into Yilin's body, a close your eyes buff icon appeared on his player panel. At that second, Yilin felt that there was deathly silence all around. Eyes, ears, mouth, nose, touch, 5 senses, everything is empty. That feeling is difficult to describe in words. It was like being in a noisy downtown. For a second, his ears were deafened and he could not hear the noise around him at all. In a daze, this sudden sense of deathly silence gave Yilin the illusion of being completely isolated from the world. But this feeling of silence was only for a moment. After a moment, it seemed that the stopped sound and time started to rotate again, and everything became normal again. But Yilin knew very well that something was different. He is different. As he opened and closed his eyes, the world in front of him was completely different in Yilin's eyes. The Blood Water, Corpse Mountain, Corpse Tower, and Blood Moon completely disappeared without a trace. In Yilin's eyes, there were only broken cities, corpses everywhere, blazing flames, and broken spell patterns in the sky. And at the edge of everything in front of you, there are strands of code-like light flashing. Yilin squinted her eyes and stared at the faintly flashing data stream, feeling as if she had caught something. During these 10 minutes, Auranos closed his eyes to me. So that's what it meant. Maybe it means, not seeing. After using Uranus compromise, Yilin found that not only could she see through all illusions, but she could also ignore the rules of the game world. In Yilin's eyes, Li Chang'e in front of her was like a streak of air. The real Li Chang'e was squatting furtively not far away. While he was wary of the magical light cannon falling on him, he was still secretly watching everything that happened here. So insidious. Yilin secretly admired him, and pretended not to notice the real Li Chang'e, and activated another skill. Let the world feel the pain from this moment on. Li Chang'e was secretly proud that his rhapsody was so lifelike that even if the other party used a cheat to turn the tables, they would not be able to detect him. The situation is not right, the worst thing is to leave, there is nothing to make a fuss about. But suddenly, Li Chang'e was confused when he heard Yilin's unprovoked and extremely sexy words. He didn't know what the wind was about, but a cold breath came straight from the Tianling guy to the chrysanthemum. gate, then turned back from the Chrysanthemum Gate and rushed back to Tianlinggai. The relief of this twist and turn made Li Chang'e tremble uncontrollably at the moment he was hit. Before Li Chang'e could even type a question, his vision went dark, foaming at the mouth, and he fell backwards with a bang. What follows is a story that leaves no suspense and no need for pity. Yulin quickly stepped forward and struck Li Chang'e in the face with one knife after another. After using Uranus's compromise, every time Yulin stabbed him, there was no longer any damage. Instead, he stabbed Li Chang'e's face until it was bloody and bloody, looking very miserable. So this is real damage. Yulin has always been wearing the concentric fraudster's ring, although the effect with a 50% chance of triggering real damage has never been triggered for some reason. But at this moment, Yulin suddenly understood what real injury meant. With a focused gaze, Yulin flicked her wrist and pulled the knife around the neck of Li Chang'e, who was lying on the ground, skillfully severing Li Chang'e's carotid artery. Swish swish swish. Yulin's hand speed was unbelievable, the sword was like lightning, and with 4 consecutive cuts, Yulin severed all the tendons in the joints of Li Chang'e's limbs. Even if Li Chang'e wakes up, he can't move. When Li Chang'e woke up from the negative state of disaster-ridden, he quickly understood his situation after a moment of astonishment. He clearly felt the passage of life and the sharp pain on his face. 3 seconds later, after the shock, Li Chang'e suddenly took a long breath, lay on the ground, stopped struggling, and allowed his health to disappear quickly with the spurt of arterial blood. "You always like to slap me in the face. I suspect that you are jealous, boss. You are nakedly jealous." Li Chang'e smiled. At this moment, he was calm, and he once again regained his composure. Yulin paused slightly as she raised the knife. Suddenly, he felt that the feeling Li Chang'e gave him seemed to be a little different. What exactly was different, Yulin couldn't tell for a while. All in all, it feels like he has completely changed into a completely different person. Yulin held up the knife. After being silent for a few seconds, she asked softly, "Do you have any last words?" Li Chang'e closed his eyes and murmured, "It turns out that the other side is quite happy. But why am I a little happy? Ha ha ha." As he spoke, Li Chang'e's breathing gradually became weak. He smiled slightly, "Boss, can I still be your leg hair?" Yulin didn't answer. He just closed his eyes and quickly dropped the knife in his hand. Kill the B-level undead Li Chang'e. Get 6,400 chaos points. Congratulations. Successfully killed 6 evil generals undead Li Chang'e. Due to killing the only monster by leapfrogging, the EXP reward will be greatly increased. Please be prepared to upgrade. Chaos value. The kill prompt jumped twice strangely. Although there are a lot of various prompts in Yulin's retina at the moment. But this word that was so special that it had never appeared before made Yulin stunned for a moment. Yulin didn't come back to his senses until a huge amount of experience points fell on him and the golden light of upgrades continued one after another. Gilialo. Right now. Li Chang'e's body turned into ashes and disappeared. A transparent flask rolled out of the fly ash. In addition to the flask, at the place where Li Chang'e died, a contract of 6 evils exploded as expected. Yulin saw something exploded from 6 evil generals undead Li Chang'e for the first time in history. She was about to touch the flask to see what it was. When she saw the illusion that disappeared due to Li Chang'e's death and the sky that had just lit up again, she didn't know why. It dimmed again. It was as if a cloud made of rain suddenly came and covered the sky. But Yulin knew that in the world of Auranos, apart from the sea of clouds, there could be no clouds above the head. Call. A gust of wind swept in from all directions, howling wildly and captivating everyone's eyes. Hiss. A piercing cry resounded across the sky. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 418. With the death of Li Chang'e, the Rhapsody skill was cracked, and the sky was only shining with the light of the spell, dazzling. But suddenly, the sky turned completely dark. A piercing cry resounded across the sky. Buzz. In an instant, Yulin felt a loud bang in his head. This piercing cry made Yulin's thinking stop for a moment, and even the scene in front of him had the illusion of being torn apart. What is it again? After Yulin killed Li Chang'e, she had no time to read Li Chang'e's last words. She planned to take advantage of the effects of the two cheating props, Uranus's compromise and the forgiveness of the benevolent. While they were still continuing to add the 6 evil generals, 6 people were pushed smoothly. This sudden change once again disrupted Yulin's plan. Including Yulin, everyone who stayed in the kingdom of Amara and had not yet had time to die from the violence of the spell, all followed the direction of the sound and looked to the sky in horror at this sudden change. Now in the kingdom of Amara, 500,000 civilians are almost dead or injured. Ordinary civilians were too low level to escape the initial wave of bombardment. Although Yulin didn't know much about the situation outside her sight, when Yulin casually opened the reputation panel and took a look, she roughly guessed that the NPCs in the kingdom of Amara were probably dead. Because this wave of killings was all blamed on their brave team. Yes, not only Yulin, but the entire brave team also received this wave of sinful experience points. Reputation of the Kingdom of Amalur Bloody Feud, 1443/infinity. The upper limit of this reputation has reached infinity. There is no higher level. In just a few minutes, the hatred value of the Kingdom of Amara came from behind and caught up, far exceeding the prestige of the Holy See of Auranos by several orders of magnitude. From this, Yulin could guess how many NPCs had died during this wave of magic rampage. On the square, only a few elite bosses from the Godi 12 team and a few guards were left, struggling to hold on. After Yulin destroyed most of the lines and nodes of the technique, this super large bombardment technique that was originally capable of targeted attacks directly turned into an indiscriminate strike. To use a Deng's professional terminology, it was a disrecognition of relatives style, which was extremely brutal and resulted in numerous casualties. In addition to the red-named boss monsters of the Godi 12 team, there are also 3 round water balls, which are very conspicuous among the red-named ones. Li Erpang had already broken away from the turn system at this moment, and the enemy NPC that he had been grinding for a long time could only wear off a layer of blood skin, had already died under the first wave of bombardment, and he died with his eyes open. Romia-chan. Thank you. Li Erpang was so moved that he cried in the water balloon and his eyes turned red. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were also extremely sad. If it hadn't been for a coincidence that they had cleared the Mermaid Kingdom's branch line and obtained Mermaid Tears, a heaven-defying item with an invincible effect, they might not have been able to escape this terrifying wave of spells. Thank you. Romy Ya. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer once again expressed their heartfelt emotions. In addition to feeling emotional, the sudden increase in experience points and the sudden decrease in reputation points also made the brave friends in the water polo understand the current situation. They are all crazy happy. This speed of gaining experience is many times faster than working hard to knock down monsters in the leveling area. What's the point of losing that little bit of reputation? If possible, please let the reputation points drop faster. They wouldn't have the slightest objection if they fell directly into blood vengeance. Anyway, the Holy See of Uranus already has a famous name, so red that it becomes purple, so red that it becomes tender, so red that it becomes pink, and so pink that it turns black. Is there any difference? No. Rays of golden light struck the heads of his teammates from a distance. Ningyu, Li Erpang, and Xiao Chuer laughed even more happily. There are too many kill prompts in front of me and they appear too fast. This was their first experience in person, and their eyes couldn't keep up with the refreshing feeling of killing prompts. So this is what cheating feels like. Li Erpang murmured to himself. Just when they have mixed feelings. The sky was dark, and the shrill sound made their eardrums buzz. Although they were not harmed in the water polo, this sudden change still made them look at the sky uncontrollably. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, but when you look at it, the joy of winning and the smoothness of leveling up are instantly washed away by shock. After staying in the water balloon for a few seconds, the three of them shouted at the same time. As this plot unfolds, something is wrong. The vast cloudless sky was now only a shadow. That shadow completely blocked even the violent light of the technique. Everyone held their breath completely the moment the shadow appeared. The only remaining survivors in the devastated city stopped breathing at the same time, their eyes widened with shock. They were so shocked that even their speech, breathing, and heartbeat seemed to have completely stopped. Not only the friendly parties, but also the enemy NPCs did not expect the scene to appear. What is that? After a moment of shock, Yilin's pupils narrowed sharply and he quickly looked at the shadow in the sky. Shadows move quickly. Yilin carefully identified it for a few seconds, and then she could barely see clearly. It was like a pot lid, covering the sky with a shadow, and there were many hairs underneath. It was said to be hair, but it could be seen so clearly from such a distance. Yilin probably guessed the thickness of the hair, which was definitely beyond imagination. Thousands of pitch-black chains, the ends of which are deeply embedded in the hair. From time to time, there are complicated lines on the chain, and the light flashes in the lines. Yilin was too far away to see clearly the meaning of those spells. It's the Titan. It's the giant wind beast, Ialos. The giant beast is here. After a brief moment of surprise, Yilin guessed the true identity of the shadow in the sky. The size of the giant beast is extremely huge. It is even huge enough for humans to live and multiply on the giant beast. This is a game world built on the sea of clouds and giant beasts. Before Titan actually appeared in front of all players in this way, including Yilin, Yilin believed that Tiger was equivalent to a reskin continent, just a background board. Unexpectedly, they who were on the giant divine beast of fire Boros witnessed with their own eyes the giant divine beast of wind Iaros coming to the top of Boros' head. It's Li Chang'e. Yilin quickly calmed down, frowned, and thought about everything. In order to completely eliminate everything, he used his last trump card at all costs. Do you want to be that exaggerated? This is definitely not a force that players can resist. Yilin thought quickly. Generally speaking, Titan beasts will not participate in battles between players. Not possible either. The development of this plot is absolutely ruined. Totally broken. Those dark chains should be used to control the movements of the giant beast. And if you listen carefully to the cry of the giant beast just now, there is a faint smell of pain in it. No, it's time to go. With that terrifying size, whoever witnesses this epic scene will be shocked to the point of numbness. Yilin is no exception. With a thought in his mind, the contract of 6 evils left behind by Li Chang'e after his death floated into Yilin's hands. After Yilin took it casually, he took a look at the attributes. Without any big surprise, he put the contract of 6 evils exploded by 6 evil generals undead Li Chang'e into the props grid. What about the flask? After putting away the contract of 6 evils, Yilin was slightly startled. Originally, a strange flask exploded after Li Chang'e's boss died, but due to the incident just now, Yilin didn't notice it for a moment, and when he looked back, the strange flask had disappeared. Rumble. But at this moment, it seems that the development of the plot does not allow Yilin to carefully search for the loot. Accompanied by a terrifying strong wind, the ground beneath his feet was shaken by terrifying waves. Yilin flew into the air, stepped on the void, and looked down. From time to time, a magical light cannon hit Yilin, but under the effect of benevolent forgiveness that reduced 99% of the damage, the light cannon that could kill everything instantly only left Yilin with scratching-like pain. Add 5%. Add 5%. Add 5%. That little bit of damage was completely healed in the blink of an eye before Yilin had time to take medicine. Yulin remained silent about this, because the scene in front of him would be unforgettable for the rest of his life. Bright rays of light intertwined and destroyed in the city, destroying everything. The 6 men in red robes could only see a small dot in the distance, with a faint flicker of light, struggling to maintain the disregarding relatives technique. In the sky, the giant beast Iolos screamed as it passed over Boros' head. The 2 giant beasts were closer than ever before. The strong wind was blowing everywhere, and the sturdy city seemed so vulnerable under the terrible wind pressure. The city walls, spires, arches, and churches collapsed one after another, and bottomless cracks appeared on the ground. In Yulin's eyes, the whole city was shaking wildly, as if something was about to break out of the ground. This city is about to be destroyed. Countless corpses were burned into unrecognizable charred corpses in the light cannon. In Yulin's eyes, all of this was the most appropriate interpretation of the word purgatory. Pieces of gravel, floor tiles, window grills, and crumbling building debris collided and shattered in mid-air in the sweeping airflow, and then merged into the chaotic airflow. A stream of air mixed with stones gradually gathered in front of Yulin's eyes. Those were pitch-black tornadoes that connected with the sky. Wind. That is the power of Iolos. It's a natural disaster at every turn. How can humans stop this? In front of this stunning scene, Yulin was alone, suspended in mid-air. She felt that she was so small, smaller than an ant. There were no words to describe this feeling of powerlessness suspended in front of a giant beast. On Yulin's lap, the strong wind blew the dog's hair, and Wang Tiandi hung tightly, fearing that if he was not careful, he would be blown into the air and never come down again. Wang Tiandi's eyes widened, and he was also shocked and unable to breathe at this scene. Everything in front of me seemed like the world was collapsing and collapsing. If I had to use one word to describe it, the pitch-black tornadoes that Iolos frequently created could be called natural disasters. Fool. Shortly after Iolos arrived, another voice seemed to come from the ground beneath his feet. The dull sound was like a drum buried underground. When the sound came out, waves of echoes came out. Every time it swayed, the roar was amplified twice, and when it finally echoed in the sky, it was like thunder. Boom! In the sea of clouds in the distance, a fire shot into the sky. The rolling sea of clouds instantly evaporated into thick white mist, boiling in the sky thousands of miles away. In that direction, Vulcan Mountain? No. Yulin first subconsciously thought it was the eruption of Vulcan Mountain, but soon he gave up this naive idea. The kingdom of Umla is more than thousands of miles away from the land of fire. Looking at the land of fire from here, given the size of the crater of the Vulcan Mountain, even if the magma in the Vulcan Mountain can erupt so high, from Yulin's distance, it is probably only as thick as a toothpick. But at this moment, in Yulin's eyes, the pillar of fire rising from the edge of the giant beast Boros looked as thick as a baby's arm. It's hard to imagine what a spectacular scene it would be if Yulin was so close to that pillar of fire at this moment. In the billowing white mist formed by the high-temperature evaporation of the sea of clouds, a huge dragon-headed black shadow rose from the white mist. The giant beast, Boros, has awakened. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 419. Is this a battle between the giant beasts? Yulin took a deep breath and her eyes flashed. If the giant wind beast Iros looks like a giant bird flying high in the sky with its wings spread, then the giant fire beast Boros at the feet of Yulin and others is a huge fire dragon. Apart from describing the scene as magnificent, Yulin couldn't think of any other more powerful adjective for a while. The hurricane roared. The ground cracked. Yulin was silent for a moment. He suddenly remembered that with the awakening of Poros, the humans living on Poros would inevitably face the bad luck of natural disasters. So the people in the land of fire. If possible, I would also like to take a dip in the hot springs in the land of fire. Yulin sighed softly and quickly threw away the uncomfortable emotions completely. It's time to hurry up. The duration of the props is running out. Yulin poured a bottle of crystal energy medicine into her mouth and quickly flew through the sky. While avoiding the building debris pulled by the black tornado in the sky, he came directly to one of the red-robed men of the 6 evil generals' 6 people. The man in red didn't seem to expect Yulin to survive this wave of magic rampage. When Yulin came to the front, one of the 6 people's dancing gestures suddenly stopped, and an emotion called shock seemed to come from the deep robe. Time was running out, and Yulin was too lazy to talk nonsense with the boss who was about to turn into experience points. Yulin quickly put away all the weapons, kept his hands free, and stretched out his palms towards the 6 people from a distance. Streaming lines were quickly outlined in Yulin's eyes. Yulin's innate skills were more mysterious and terrifying than the spells. Let the world feel pain from now on. Disaster-ridden. The 6 people who were hit by the control skills fell directly from mid-air. Yulin flew close, the light effects of his skills flashed, and 2 other Yulin after-images appeared behind him. Shadow kill. After-image clone. Concentrate. Shadow-shattering blow. Grasp of annihilation. Without the constraints of the turn-based system, Yulin was too lazy to use the assassin's fighting method. As soon as they took action, they unleashed their full firepower. Including Yurin's afterimage, 3 Yulin launched Grasp of Annihilation at the 6 people at the same time. With 3 times the skill effect, it would be enough to destroy anyone. The monster's output, even if it does not trigger the annihilation effect. Hummed. It really didn't trigger. Boom. The explosion caused by Yulin from a distance instantly completely submerged one of the 6 people in the flames of the explosion. An ordinary explosion raged in the storm. The man in red robe didn't even have time to scream, so he took 3 shots of Grip of Annihilation. Come again. In the distance, 6 people separated, intending to gather again. Haha, it's too late. Yulin smiled lightly. Sure enough, the weaknesses of this boss are as easy to understand as their strengths. The 6-in-1 boss seems to have the attribute of lifelink, and the health value is shared. 3 times the Grip of Annihilation, with various skill bonuses, cannot cause much damage to one boss, and will be evenly distributed to the 6 boss. But let the world feel pain from now on. In the flames of the explosion, the man in red robes was in ragged clothes, his body shimmering with magic, and he escaped from the space locked by the Grip of Annihilation in embarrassment. But before he could fly far, Yulin raised his hand and fired another disaster, controlling the 6 people in mid-air again. The other 5-6 people also felt the same way and fell from mid-air. Grasp of Annihilation, X3. Grasp of Annihilation, X3. The explosion is indeed a man's romance. After possessing the additional bonus of the Shadow Warlock profession, Yulin had enough crystal energy at the moment to squander it arbitrarily. Violent explosions submerged the 6 people again and again, and the boss was so miserable that he couldn't even make a sound. While ravaging the 6 people, Yulin suddenly had the illusion that I seemed to be the boss. The third wave of Grasp of Annihilation 3 links finally triggered the annihilation effect as desired. The space in front of Yulin was squeezed, collapsed, and twisted. Under the effect of annihilation, one of the 6 people was not even left with any residue. The other 5-6 people who were still flying towards us in the distance froze, and in the blink of an eye they turned into gray and completely disappeared from the game world. Not only the boss disappeared, but no experience points were left behind. There is no prompt, no experience, no treasure chest. Under annihilation, everything withers and disappears out of thin air. Such a domineering skill effect can be said to kill 1,000 enemies without any benefit. If it weren't for this critical moment, Yulin really couldn't think of any other solution, and he wouldn't be willing to use this killer weapon. 6 evil generals 6 people, die. With the death of the 6 people, no one can control the violent technique anymore. Gradually, the light of the spell in the sky quickly collapsed and disappeared, and there were no longer light cannons raging in the devastated kingdom of Amara. Another golden light fell on Yilin's head. Yilin glanced at the prompt. It seems that the Godi 12 or something like that has gained experience points. Yilin didn't bother to check how many levels she had upgraded. She had no time. After solving the 6-in-1 boss, Yilin heard a ding sound in his ears. After dinging, there was strangely no prompt. Rumble. Just when Yilin was wondering, the cracked ground slowly tilted. Under this intense turmoil, the entire city had long since turned into a hell on earth, with ruins littered with corpses. Almost most of the lives were turned into the experience points of Yilin's team and completely disappeared from this world. Although he knew that this was just a virtual game world, seeing this doomsday-like scene with his own eyes made even Yilin feel shocked and uncomfortable at the same time. 3 minutes left. Yilin was in mid-air, swiping her index finger down to open the interface, and quickly took a look at the buff duration. It is not advisable to stay here for a long time. Unexpectedly, Li Chang'e left such a backup plan before his death. It seems that he is really determined to completely overturn the table and show off his cards. He will use all possible means and all means at his disposal to kill everyone in the city. Otherwise, it would be impossible to drive Irohs here to awaken Boros and trigger a war between the giant beasts when he thought that the overall situation has been decided. Too insidious. Yilin sighed. Call out. Yilin's eyes narrowed. As he was about to leave, there was a strange sound in the distance. It sounded like the sound of an object moving at high speed through the air. Yilin raised her head. Look in the direction of the sound. Looking at it, Yilin's expression suddenly froze. What's that? It's over, it's over. In the water polo, Li Erpang was completely disappointed. Looking out from the water balloon, there are corpses all around. Although this kind of experience of lying in a water polo and earning a lot of experience points is indeed very comfortable. But he's not blind. This map is about to collapse. Now he can't get out except passively shaking in the water ball. I can't move either. If this continues, wouldn't it be the end of the world? Communication crystal. Divine Sword Susu was beside Li Erpang, keeping his eyes closed, as if listening to something. At this moment, Divine Sword Susu smiled slightly and whispered a reminder. By the way, there's this thing too. After being reminded by Shenjian Susu, Li Erpang finally remembered that there was a saying for asking for help in the game. So Li Erpang quickly took out the communication crystal and sent a distress signal to Yilin. Although he didn't know how that guy could save them at this time. But at this time, Li Erpang, who was shaken by the water, seemed to be grasping at the last straw, treating a dead horse as a live doctor and asking for help before he could. You can't just wait to die, right? Once the effect of mermaid tears disappears and they stay in the water ball, they will only die and there is no other possibility. Yilin's pupils shrank suddenly and she stared at the direction where the sound of whoosh, whoosh, whoosh broke through the air came from. It was a dark shadow. Behind the shadow, there were long fireworks, like rockets taking off. It's like a jet plane, shooting out circles of light effects that break through the sky behind the flames on its butt. That's a mecha. Only a few hundred meters away, Yilin could clearly see the true face of the black shadow. Ja. Suddenly, on the ground that was shaking and cracking into countless pieces, an old man in red robe walked out of the broken palace. In his hand, he held a flask. In the flask, black air surged, forming a ferocious smiling face from time to time. Call. Yilin received a distress signal from Li Erpang. He hesitated for a few seconds, then with a thought in his mind, the vast power of thought spread towards the ground like a wave. This strange power does not belong to the category of any skill, but when Yilin uses it, it is like an arm, using it freely and without any ambiguity. Yulin didn't know why he suddenly mastered such a cheating power after his mental attribute exceeded 10 points, but he knew that it should be related to his lost memory. In an instant, Yulin easily found 3 large water balls in the ruins where the black tornado was raging. With the thought in his mind, 3 water balls slowly floated up and moved closer to Yulin. Although Li Erpang is obviously overweight, Yulin still doesn't know where the limit of her ability is. After easily lifting 3 large water balloons with her thought, Yulin glanced at the machine flying towards her in mid-air. He suddenly remembered the last words of Queen Syrian, and lowered his head in thought. Damn it! You kid is definitely cheating. After Li Erpang was dug out of the ruins, he said this angrily. Believe it or not, I will throw you away. No. You're so clever with this cheat. I swear I will never report it. Never. After a brief shock, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer quickly accepted such an ordinary setting. Sure enough, it is such a plot unfolding routine. Nothing new. Isn't it just the protagonist who makes a fool of himself? Is it weird? Surprised. After accepting such a setting, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer took a few seconds to calm down. I thought I saw Jill there. What? Gil? Whose Gil fell off? Li Erpang blurted out the dirty words without thinking about it for a moment. It's High Priest Gil. Li Erpang came back to his senses, was stunned for a moment, and then yelled, it's that old immortal Gilda who cheated our mission. Yulin soared in the sky, looking down from a high position. Through the strong wind, broken tiles, and bricks, in this messy world, Yulin's eyes passed through many obstacles and looked at the smiling old man at the entrance of the palace. At this moment, the name above High Priest Gil's head had completely changed. Became another name. A name that was familiar to Yulin. 6 Evil Generals Puppet Master, true. LV85. When Yulin rescued Li Erpang and the others from the ruins, the kingdom of Amara collapsed completely. The ground cracked, and rolling magma gushes out from the cracks. Not only the kingdom of Amara, as far as Yulin could see, the earth beneath his feet was completely covered in red magma. The wrath of the giant beast has left nothing but desolation, leaving no trace of land behind. Suddenly I remembered that today is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 420. Being immersed in this scene, Yulin felt as if the sky and the earth were colliding with each other in ferocious postures. The giant bird's wings fluttered, and the dark hurricane danced like a dragon. The dragon raised its head, and the rolling magma surged out from the ground, turning into pillars of hot fire. It was swept up by the dark hurricane, forming red and black spiral structures. In front of this, human beings are simply smaller than ants, as if they are floating. Church. When Li Erpang witnessed this horrific scene, he was so shocked that he couldn't say anything nutritious except saying F***ck. Yulin had Wang Tiandi hanging on her feet, and at the same time, she used her psychic power to hold the mermaid tears of Li Erpang, Ningyu, and Xiao Chuer, and swept towards the edge of the sea of clouds. Ding! At the moment when High Priest Gil, the 6 evil generals and puppet master, true, was swallowed by the magma, another crisp tinkling sound sounded in Yulin's ears. But apart from the ding sound, there was no other reminder in Yulin's retina. The mecha that flew from a distance flew closer, and Yulin and the others saw clearly that it was a jet-black armor full of technology, with patterns all over its body, and it actually resembled the form of the Night Dire after it transformed into a Cybertron. There are some similarities in style. I saw the black mecha flying in mid-air, its limbs stiff and motionless. From the place where High Priest Gil was submerged by the magma, a faint black light rose into the sky and disappeared directly into the pitch-black mecha. Base. All of this changed so quickly. Yilin was busy escaping from here with her 3 teammates and the dog on her legs, and had no time to pay attention to the mysterious mecha flying from that nook and cranny of the sea of clouds. And when that wisp of black energy merged with the mecha, the lids of the mecha's eyes snapped open. It's like the action of a human opening his or her eyes. 2 scarlet rays of light shot out from the mecha's head, and at that moment, they shone brighter than the light of magma. Like 2 red light bulbs, it stung everyone's eyes. What the hell? The sudden change of painting style in the game world once again made several people feel messy and their mouth corners trembled into the shape of cerebral thrombus. This time messy in the wind is no longer an adjective. They were really messed up in the hurricane at the moment. The dark mecha's eyes glowed red, and as expected, the health bar, name, and level were displayed on the top of its head. 6 evil generals, shadow of the evil god. LV88. Another boss. I have searched for bosses all over the world, but now they appear one after another as if they are free of charge. The world was changing so fast that the corners of Li Erpang's mouth trembled like a sieve, and he completely lost his ability to organize language. Immediately afterwards, a shadow that covered the sky and sun swept out from behind Iolo's. Meteors burning with green flames ejected from Iolo's back as if they were free. There is a meteor shower in the sky. When it fell to the ground, the green meteorite rolled on the spot and turned into stone giants burning with green flames. Hellfire. LV80. The level is not high. But this meteor shower is all over the sky. There are too many. He. Those densely packed black spots turned out to be bad women with black wings and cyan skin. They look charming, with small pieces of cloth hanging on their enchanting figures that can barely block the spots. If Li Erpang could still speak at this time, he would probably yell, "Let go of that witch and let me do it." Charming Banshee. LV80. The army of monsters comes out in full force. The Iolo's giant beast that was struggling with Boros was like a hornet's nest that had been poked. Countless monsters spewed out, and the scene was extremely spectacular. In the center of the monster army, a giant with a height of several meters, dark skin, and bat wings on his back flew up in the sky with a rolling sound, nimbly avoiding the hurricane raging between the 2 beasts. The giant's head has double horns, and his eyes are covered with black cloth, but a faint green light shines through the black cloth. His muscular body is engraved with luminous tattoos, which is very fashionable. The most frightening thing is the giant's weapon, which is 2 crescent-shaped war blades burning with blazing green flames. One look at the style and shape of the weapons, you can tell that the leader of the monster army is not the kind of man who is the leader of the monster army. It's a bargain to get a boxed lunch when you show up. Foolish mortals, you know nothing about power. The bat-winged double-sword giant smiled coldly, and pointed the blade in the direction where Yilin and others were escaping. "Dog braves, you are seeking your own death." Brave Yilin, who was struggling to hold Guzi and 3 teammates who were holding him back, soared in the sky. Hearing this domineering declaration, he staggered in mid-air and almost killed Guzi and the 3 teammates. Shake it off. Who the hell is a dog hero? Look back. The boss, who is full of character, is indeed not afraid of the prestigious name of Dog Brave and shows his health bar, level, and name. 6 evil generals, betrayer Illidan. LV95. There is probably a monster production base or something on Iolos's back. How could he give birth to such a large army of monsters? The flaming legions, with ferocious faces and enchanting figures, came in force from behind Yilin. They are all monsters that can fly. According to the normal game flow, this is probably the final leveling area. Even the boss level of the 6 evil generals is a bit higher than the other 6 evil generals. But Li Chang'e made a trick before his death. It seemed that the game process was fast-forwarded to X3 in an instant, and he acted out of common sense, pushing the plot to a point of collapse. After the fight between the 2 giant beasts, the monsters no longer had any geographical restrictions and rushed out of their lairs. Yulin felt faintly the pressure. Although the ability he inexplicably unlocked does not belong to any skill category, the more powerful it is, the more terrifying the crystal energy it consumes. At first, she felt nothing while pulling 3 people and 1 dog, but as soon as the speed increased, Yulin felt a stinging feeling between her eyebrows, and a strong sense of fatigue came over, making Yulin have to pour crystal energy into her mouth crazily. A large bottle to replenish the sharply consumed crystal energy value. Ningyu has been watching the changes in the water polo. As an elite apostle, he has already developed the good quality of maintaining an unchanging face no matter how outrageous the situation is. Unless you can't help it. At this moment, he was floating in the air, witnessing a doomsday scene, and being chased by a mighty legion of monsters from behind. Ningyu, who was on the spiritual side, could only keep thinking about what to do in this desperate situation. Is there any way to break the situation? Break your sister. Who the hell can break this situation? Look. It's Ji Lang. Xiao Chuer suddenly exclaimed in the water ball and pointed to the shore of Poros. Yulin was holding back her energy and flying towards Yunhaihe. In fact, not only Ningyu, but Yulin is also constantly thinking about the direction of the next plot. According to this consumption rate, it is absolutely impossible to take 3 people and 1 dog across the sea of clouds and reach other giant beasts. While thinking, Yulin was focused on running away and had no time to take into account the changes around her. After being reminded by Xiao Chuer, Yulin also lowered her head and looked in the direction Xiao Chuer pointed. The earth cracked open, and magma surged from the cracks in the ground and spread in all directions. The magma was flowing so fast that it could follow Yulin's buttocks. The steam was rising and Yulin had the illusion that her buttocks were being roasted by fire. And it was in this situation that at the place Xiao Chuer pointed to, blacksmith Ji Lang sat on a rock by the sea of clouds at some point. In the turbulent and collapsing earth, amidst the raging wind, he was sitting steadily on the shore, remaining motionless despite the wind and rocks. Blacksmith Ji Lang was just like when he first met, with a face full of stories, a touch of sadness in his eyes from time to time, and he was pouring spicy wine into his mouth 1 mouthful at a time. The hot magma was about to submerge blacksmith Ji Lang's location, but he didn't know it and got drunk alone, just like a loyal NPC. How could he be there? The moment Yulin saw blacksmith Ji Lang, such an idea flashed into her mind. And the second thought is. Yulin caught a glimpse of the surging magma tide behind blacksmith Ji Lang, and her expression changed slightly. But right here. Blacksmith Ji Lang raised his head. In mid-air, he looked into Yulin's complicated eyes. Blacksmith Ji Lang suddenly smiled, turned around and pointed at the vast sea of clouds, put his palms behind his ears, and made a gesture of listening. Listen carefully. Blacksmith Ji Lang's actions made Yulin and others stunned. Li Erpang really listened carefully. It is said that when God closes a door for mankind, he will open a window from time to time. It doesn't matter if the window is closed, sometimes he may even open a hole. Li Erpang has bad eyesight, but his hearing is excellent. He frowned in confusion. I think I heard this sound when I was playing with Miss Mermaid. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were puzzled. What? Where did the sound come from? Wait, it seems the point is, when did you secretly play with the mermaid girl? SHH. Yulin's expression changed slightly. He didn't hear any sound though. However, under perception, the surrounding air feedbacks bursts of high-frequency vibrations, which are difficult to detect under normal circumstances. It's ultrasound. At this moment, Yulin suddenly remembered what Saren said before she died. Thank you, it's okay. Believe it and jump. The moment before she unlocked it, Mermaid Queen Saren foresaw her own death, so she said, thank you, it doesn't matter. She accepted the fate of death calmly and did not want to be an obstacle to the brave man, so she died happily. And what the last sentence corresponds to. Let's jump. After Yilin figured out Sirian's death message, he no longer hesitated and accelerated into the sea of clouds with 3 people and 1 dog. Emperor Wang Tian, Wang. Li Erpang, Ning Yu, are you kidding? Xiao Chuer, dance again. Bo. Just. Mermaid tears, it's time. The water balloon burst. Yilin's forgiveness of the benevolent and Uranus's compromise effects also disappeared from Yilin. Wow dash. Woof 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 woof. Enter Poros. Blacksmith Ge Lang looked calm and allowed the lava to submerge him. There seems to be endless wine hidden in the bottle of Blacksmith Ge Lang. But this time, after he took the last sip, he turned the bottle with the mouth down and shook it vigorously, unable to pour out even a drop. You finished drinking. Blacksmith Ge Lang smiled. Go home. After saying that, Blacksmith Ge Lang closed his eyes, with a rare expression of joy and anticipation on his tense face. Okay. Thump. In mid-air, Yilin took a leap of faith and fell into the sea of clouds with perfect posture. Skills that are full of quality are useless if you don't use them. The brave team fell into the sea of clouds one after another, falling rapidly and sinking at a terrifying speed. Li Erpang, Go Zi, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chuer are still experiencing the thrill of bungee jumping without safety measures in their own ways. They only screamed for a while and then gradually came to their senses. The protagonist will never commit suicide easily. Wasn't it okay to jump into the sea last time? Jumping into the sea is nothing, it is a blatant escape device for the protagonist. So in this case, deep in the sea of clouds, a huge shadow quickly emerged from the depths of the sea of clouds. It's Poseidon. Although a few people were not so desperate that they thought they were certain to die. But at the moment of falling into the sea of clouds, everyone except Yilin and Goze couldn't think of any way to escape this time. Unexpectedly, at this critical moment, the giant beast Poseidon came to the rescue. You are indeed a brave man. Ning Yu was deeply moved. The royal plot in RPG is always so plain and boring. Boom. 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 Several people fell into the soft flesh one after another in the vast sea of clouds. At that moment, Yilin and others had the illusion of being hugged tightly by a soft and plump F-class. This time, Poseidon did not swallow Yilin and others into his belly, but caught them with his broad and soft back. On Poseidon's back, there are many pores that open and close like pores, and they are bottomless. Li Erpang, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chuer recognized at a glance that these holes were the exits from Poseidon's belly. Poseidon emits ultrasonic waves of unknown meaning. Yilin felt the vibrations of the sea of clouds around her, and seemed to understand the emotions of this giant beast. I'm sorry, Saren is dead. Yilin stroked Poseidon's back. Although Yilin has never stayed in the Mermaid Kingdom, the Mermaid Queen Saren seems to have magical abilities and has already predicted this scene, and asked Poseidon to come here to rescue them at this most critical moment. For the sake of this kindness, Yilin could only say sorry to this giant beast at this moment. Carrying the brave team on his broad back, Poseidon accelerated his movement and emerged from the surface of the sea of clouds. Rumble. Hoo-hoo. Roar. Hiss. The fierce wind, mixed with the hot air, blew on several people's faces. In the distance, the sounds of magma erupting, hurricanes roaring, dragons roaring, and giant birds neighing, intertwined into a magnificent poem, came from behind. Yilin and others looked back in unison. At this moment, they could finally see the true forms of the two giant beasts. A giant cyan bird, with thick black mist filling its back, and the outline of a temple faintly emerging from the black mist. In the temple, there are constantly burning green flames, hellfire, erupting in the form of meteors, forming a rain of fire all over the sky. With the temple as the center, the faint light of the spell floated on the dark chains. It seemed that there was some kind of existence in the temple, controlling the giant beast in this way, causing the giant beast to scream in pain. Under the wings of the giant blue bird, the giant fire beast Boros has completely awakened, bathed in fiery red magma. The terrifying high temperature evaporated the sea of clouds in an instant, completely immersing the dragon in thick smoke. The dragon's head raised angrily and bit into pieces with the giant blue bird in the sky. The scene of the fight between the two giant beasts shook the earth and the sky at every turn. Waves of clouds covering the sky and the sun were thousands of meters high. Centered on the place where the two giant beasts were fighting, they spread horizontally in all directions. Yulin and the others were on Poseidon's back, thousands of miles away from there, but they could still clearly feel the turmoil from the sea of clouds, as well as the power of the hurricane and magma. The war between giant beasts is definitely not something that just players can get involved in. This is no longer the same level of power. As mentioned before, Yulin once tried to stab the ground with a complete combo. Not to mention the damage value, even the health bar did not show up. This shows that the player's damage is not even a scratch to the Titan. They're catching up. Ningyu's expression changed. In the direction where the giant beasts were fighting together, in the sky, a large shadow, densely packed, was chasing in this direction. The number is so large that it will be really difficult to estimate for a while. In front of the monster army, the most conspicuous thing is a jet black mecha that spits out flames and flies like a fighter jet, as well as a giant that flaps its rotten bat wings and holds a crescent-shaped war blade. They are the last 6 evil generals. 6 evil generals Shadow of the Evil God. 6 evil generals Betrayer Illidan. The 2 final bosses, with a large number of subordinates, are chasing Yulin and others. Did I dig up your ancestral graves in my last life? Li Erpang was angry. Is this battle necessary? This is too much. What should we do? Compared to Li Erpang's anger, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer gradually got used to the intense frequency and rhythm. They calmly looked at Yulin and asked slowly. What is the protagonist used for? It's just for cheating at critical moments. Otherwise, why did they work so hard to hold the protagonist's thigh during this trial? Isn't it just for this moment? All 6 key bosses have appeared. It is obvious that this has reached the final stage of the trial. Although their level is in the kingdom of Amara, they gain a lot of experience points by using the spells to harvest lives. But compared with the more terrifying experience points required for later upgrades, this huge amount of experience points still cannot allow them to reach the full level. If you follow the normal process and slowly level up monsters, it is not impossible to pass the level smoothly. However, because Li Changa's undead were randomly involved in this trial, the plot was fast-forwarded, and their leveling speed could not match the speed of the bosses pursued. As a result, at this last moment, their level was unable to safely defeat the boss, which was very embarrassing. Do you remember our main mission? Yulin was silent for a moment. Sign out. If Yulin didn't mention this, Xiao Chuer would really forget that there was a main mission. In this trial, or in other words, this time in the game, the presence of the main mission is really too weak. I concentrated on upgrading, spawning monsters, upgrading equipment, and running side quests, but I didn't touch the main quests much. Mainly because it can't be touched. So Xiao Chuer fell silent as soon as she said 2 words. Ningyu honestly reopened the tasks interface and took a few glances. Looking for more clues about the evil god. Yulin smiled, sat cross-legged on the back of Poseidon, and took out an old compass from the props. Staring at the fixed pointer on the compass, Yulin's expression gradually became serious and she spoke slowly. Ever since I killed the first 6 evil generals, I have been thinking about a question. Most of the tasks in this world are presented in the form of progress. For example, the task of collecting items will show the progress of the collection. The task of killing monsters will show the progress of how many monsters have been killed. But our main mission remained unchanged until I personally killed the 6 evil generals. In the mission, from beginning to end, we were asked to collect more clues about the evil gods. According to common sense, if the purpose of this mission is really to let us defeat 6 difficult bosses in order to unlock the ultimate boss evil god, then the current goal of the main mission should have changed accordingly. That's right, Ningyu patted his thigh and suddenly realized. But soon he frowned again and asked, but why? Xiao Chuer chuckled. The subtext of this smile seems to be, the mental side of this session is not very good. I have a bold idea. Yilin glanced at the pointer. The pointer seemed to be broken, pointing straight down. In the sky behind, the monster army was burning with blazing green fire, getting closer and closer. After being far away from the area where the Titan beasts were fighting, the shadow of the evil god and Illidan flew without any hindrance, and the speed of chasing down the brave team became faster. If the prophecy that Saren knows already includes our current situation, then you should be able to understand what I am saying, right? In the second half of Yilin's sentence, she patted Poseidon on the back and said to the giant beast. Poseidon's true form is actually an incredibly huge whale. This big guy seems to be shouting a little happily. Li Erpang didn't know if he was gifted, but he could vaguely distinguish the cry of whales, so he translated by the way. Dive down. Take us to the bottom of the sea of clouds. Yilin did not hesitate and gave instructions to Poseidon. Really? The giant divine beast Poseidon beneath him could really understand what Yilin said. In the blink of an eye, several people were sitting on the back of the giant beast, sinking rapidly into the depths of the sea of clouds. Others, what the hell? Emperor Wang Tian, wow. As Poseidon sank rapidly in the sea of clouds, everyone was swallowed by the cloud and lay tightly on Poseidon's soft back, fearing that they would be blown away by inertia. Li Erpang shouted mercilessly, are you crazy? No, Ningyu lay firmly on Poseidon's back, his expression becoming more and more astonished, muttering to himself subconsciously, his pupils almost shrinking into an shape, we are wrong, we have always been wrong. Xiao Chuer tried hard to maintain her balance and asked, what do you mean? What's wrong? Deep in the sea of clouds, Ningyu's expression became more horrified, and he loudly expressed his conclusion, Brother Yilin is right. We have been wrong all along. We have fallen into inertial thinking from the beginning. What do you mean? Can we still talk properly? Xiao Chuer wanted to slap Ningyu on the face with a whip. Are you looking for a slap in the face if you are still showing off like this? Yilin smiled and looked at his teammates and the dog lying awkwardly on the back of the giant beast. He was still sitting cross-legged, unmoving, with an indifferent expression. What he means is very simple. If according to normal logic, our action of killing the 6 evil generals complies with the requirements of the main mission should have changed the current target and displayed a killing prompt. In other words, in fact, to complete the main mission, you may not need to touch the 6 evil generals at all. Another way of thinking. We have always thought that in order to prevent the resurrection of the evil god, we must kill the 6 evil generals. But have you ever thought about it? This is a game. Is the original intention of the final boss design just to let the 6 evil generals be killed? Did the players do everything possible to avoid the appearance of the final boss? Then what's the point of designing this boss? Yilin's words made Xiao Chuer think about it with horror. She vaguely understood what Yilin wanted to say next, and her expression was shocked. You mean? Haha, the final boss will definitely appear. This is the original intention of the game designer. This is also the fun of the game. The premise of the so-called fun is that no one will die in this game. Thinking about it, our action of killing the 6 evil generals might not actually prevent the evil god from resurrecting, but, the death of the 6 evil generals is the condition for the evil god to resurrect. This theory made me think of such a possibility. Could it be that there is actually a way to clear the level without killing the 6 evil generals, but by collecting information on the Sea of Clouds map to deduce the true location of the evil god. That's why the main mission asks us to collect more clues. Actually, there's another thing. Don't you find it strange? Everyone in the game world, NPCs, including us players, all know that the worldview of this world is a magnificent adventure world built on the clouds. But have you ever thought about what is under the Sea of Clouds? At this point, Poseidon no longer knew how deep he had dived in the Sea of Clouds. The surrounding Sea of Clouds was pure white at the beginning. As Poseidon dived, the color became darker and darker. I don't know when it started to turn into billowing black clouds. In front of several people, the visibility dropped at a terrifying speed. They stretched out their hands and could not even clearly identify their 5 fingers. Suddenly, the giant beast Poseidon, which followed Yilin's instructions, seemed to have hit a soft membrane-like obstacle, and its speed slowed down sharply. The terrifying impact force acted on several people. Ningyu, Xiaochuer, and Li Erpang groaned at the same time, and fell on Poseidon's back under the influence of inertia. Even though the flesh on Poseidon's back was very soft, their health points dropped by a small amount under the impact. Rush. When Poseidon hit the obstacle in the dark clouds, Yilin was even more sure of his conclusion. Without hesitation, Yilin waved her hand and told Poseidon to continue charging. Rush. Poseidon is also very powerful and does not slack off in his work. Really going full speed to make the final sprint with full power. Bo. After a fierce sprint, the hero, friends, and dog lying on Poseidon's back suddenly had the illusion that Poseidon had broken through a layer of membrane. The pressure on my body suddenly decreased. A completely different world is displayed in front of everyone. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 421. Before my eyes, it suddenly became clear. Poseidon broke out of the dark clouds. It's like entering another space from one space. In the dark cloud, everyone could hear only the conversations between teammates, as well as each other's breathing and heartbeats. But the moment he broke out of the dark clouds, thunder, showers, strong winds, and noisy ambient sounds made Yilin suddenly feel like he had entered another world. This sudden change made several people's expressions look stunned for a moment. But the reason for consternation is not only due to changes in the environment. The moment he broke through the dark clouds, Yilin felt like a buzz in his head, and memories surged in like a tide. Yilin, Li Erpang, and Wang Tiandi were frozen on Poseidon's back. My memory has been restored. The moment he broke through the dark clouds, he remembered everything. Including his identity as an apostle, as well as everything when creating a character before entering the game world. Everything in the real world is back online. The moment Li Erpang regained his memory, he rushed towards Yilin. I almost got tricked to death by you. Woof woof woof. Emperor Wang Tian suddenly burst into tears and crossed his paws to cover the little dog. He didn't know that he was remembering some tragic past that made him cry so miserably. I will never team up with you again. You are so cheating. You actually have amnesia in the team mode. I swear, if I team up with you again and enter the trial, I will be a dog. A fat dog. Wait a minute, why can Brother Su appear in the game world? Is he cheating? Li Erpang suddenly held his head and squatted on Poseidon's back in pain. Yilin had no time to pay attention to the little fat man's complaints, because the moment he regained his memory and combined with everything in the game world, he suddenly figured everything out. After cursing a few words, Li Erpang remembered the story of Excalibur Susu, and suddenly he held his head again and squatted aside in pain, right next to the dog, crying with sadness. Li Erpang's brief complaints and lamentations were also heard by Ningyu and Xiaochuer. They are not stupid. In just a few words, the identities of Li Erpang, Yilin, and others were already revealed. You are apostles. Ningyu's eyes widened and his fingers trembled, pointing at Yilin. The next words could no longer be uttered. However, Xiao Chuer suddenly drew out her weapon and took a few steps away, her eyes full of vigilance. If Yilin's performance in the game world can be explained by the protagonist Halo, it makes sense. But if Yilin and Li Erpang are both apostles, this scheming would be too terrifying. From the beginning to the end, they never had any doubt about the identities of Yilin and Li Erpang. If it were all pretended, wouldn't his acting skills be even more extreme than Li Chang's? Ridiculous. Yilin sighed softly. After recovering his memory, he kept thinking. Consider deeper questions about trials. Yilin looked at Ningyu and Xiao Chuer with a calm expression. I didn't lie to you. I used a temporary team contract with him. I didn't expect that when the temporary team entered the trial, they would randomly arrive. Sealing memory side effects. Hiss. The cold rain hit my face, causing burning pain. Ningyu took a sharp breath. He recalled Yilin's performance in the game world after losing his memory, and couldn't help but feel scared. As an apostle, Ningyu could not imagine how he could pass such a deceptive mode if he lost his memory during the trial. After Yilin explained, Xiao Chuer's tense nerves relaxed slightly. Her doubtful eyes swept over Yilin and Li Erpang. Yilin couldn't tell, she didn't know if she was cheating. But looking at Li Erpang's expression, it didn't look like he was faking it. What about the dog? Xiao Chuer snorted softly and asked Gozi, who was holding his lower body and crying. Yilin's expression did not change and she said casually, my pet. That's so. No wonder it's the brave man and the dog. Etc. Could it be that Yilin was forcibly assigned the status of brave in the game world, and could it be one of the side effects of the temporary team contract? Recalling my experiences in the game world, I can't explain clearly the blessings and misfortunes brought by this brave status. Soon, Xiao Chuer and Ningyu figured out the general outline of the whole thing. Ningyu sneered, with a self-deprecating look on his face, it's so damn funny, I, the dignified spiritual apostle, actually thought you were an indigenous character in the trial. Yilin shook her head and comforted, I don't blame you, I am also a victim. All the truth is revealed. After Yilin explained his identity, when several people recovered from various shocks, they found that Poseidon's body was bathed in light, and traces of blue light peeled out from Poseidon's body and moved backward. Drift away and disappear into the void. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer refocused their attention on the trial. Having said that, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were obviously wary of Yilin and Li Erpang this time, and they distanced themselves a few steps without leaving any trace. Both of them have vivid memories of their experiences in the game world. If Yilin is the protagonist of the game world, then his acting style is sinister and ruthless, which is understandable. But if Yilin is an apostle, this is a bit subtle. Where is this? Xiao Chuer opened her eyes and looked around, her expression becoming more and more surprised. Ningyu wiped a handful of the rainwater that had hit his face. He frowned at first, then put his palm in front of his nose and sniffed. He was suddenly shocked and exclaimed, is this acid rain? Yes. Yilin squinted her eyes and looked up at the sky. This is a dead world. An endless black cloud covered the sky and made it difficult to tell whether it was day or night. More like eternal night. Gloomy. In the center of the black clouds behind a few people, there was a huge cave that was bottomless. Apparently not long ago, they took the Titan Poseidon and broke through the clouds from that cave to the current world. The cold wind, mixed with the smelly rain, hit several people, causing pain. Under the influence of acid rain, the clothes on the surface of Yilin's body were faintly covered with white smoke. Poseidon soared in the sky, with a barren land beneath him. Abandoned modern high-rise buildings stand side by side. The building, which was broken at the waist, was empty. In the crisscrossing highways, billboards and street lights were broken in various directions on the highways. Rusty four-wheeled vehicles completely covered the deserted road. The surface of some cars is even covered with potholes of varying sizes, and it is unknown how cruel abuse they suffered before being scrapped. In the distance, there are violent turbulences from time to time, blowing up the dust, dead leaves, and messy scrap iron on the ground, spiraling into the air, and sweeping everything towards the desolate land further away. Boom! From time to time, a dazzling thunder fell from the black clouds, casting a pale bright color on the cracked walls of the high-rise buildings. Everlasting night. Acid rain. The high-rise building was cut off. Ruined city. An empty civilized world. Yilin suddenly understood what kind of place this was. But he did not express his speculation, but silently swiped down with his index finger, but the familiar player panel did not appear in front of Yilin with this action. Ningyu's face changed slightly when he saw Yilin swiping his index finger. He got it? He really gets it? Ningyu quickly made a stroke too. This is not in the game world anymore. It is reality. It is the reality in the trial. Apostle panel. Yilin thought silently in her mind, opened the apostle panel and took a look. In the game world, the skills that are like arm skills have completely disappeared. While he was relieved, he was also a little disappointed. It's so satisfying to recall the skills of assassins in the game world. The other side. Xiao Chuer exclaimed, the equipment and props that I worked so hard to acquire are all gone. No, you still have the same tricks on you. Ningyu looked at Xiao Chuer, obviously he also discovered this. Gone. Everything in the game world is gone. This is the reality outside the Aurano's world. I see. On the mental side of Tang Tang, classmate Ningyu began to analyze, it seems that this is the truth of this trial. The game world of Uranos exists above the clouds. And under the clouds, is the real trial. No, Yilin's eyes flickered slightly, and she shook her head to deny Ningyu's idea, there is another possibility. Oh. Ningyu was stunned. Am I the spiritual side or are you the spiritual side? Yilin showed Ningyu the concentric fraudster ring on her finger, took out the concentric compass from the storage space, and waved it in front of Ningyu and Xiao Chuer. I discovered one thing. What disappeared were some street stall goods and high-end game props, which were still in the storage space. After saying this, fearing that Ningyu might not believe it, Yilin took out another deed of 6 evils and threw it into Ningyu's right hand. Ningyu looked at the contract of 6 evils in his hand in shock, and the corresponding attributes appeared in front of his eyes, which made Ningyu have no choice but to believe Yilin's statement. Wait, where did you get so many high-end game props? If not reality, then where is this? Yilin smiled slightly, isn't there this kind of place in many games? It is a hidden map that is under development but has not really been opened yet. Through certain actions of the player, such as left foot and right foot in place the take-off operation, or maybe it was due to a bug or something, I accidentally ended up in this kind of map. Indeed, there is. Ningyu pondered for a moment and nodded, feeling more and more that the statement was reliable. That makes sense. Xiao Chuer echoed that she was also inclined to the statement. After all, a layer of cloud serves as the boundary between game and reality, which is too fantasy. Li Erpang, who gradually recovered from the blow of Brother Divine Sword Su, did not pay attention to the discussion of several people. Instead, he squinted his eyes, wrinkled his nasolabial folds, and patted Poseidon under his buttocks. He said to himself in a moderate voice, have you noticed that this whale seems to have shrunk? Sure enough, as Li Erpang said, the giant divine beast Poseidon under them, as the blue stream of light continued to peel off the body surface, the body became smaller and smaller, and it could no longer reach the scale of the giant divine beast. Just when a few people were confused, a serious reminder message appeared in front of everyone. Message from Tower. The team's main mission is being revised. Correction completed. Trial difficulty corrected to Nightmare level. Team main mission released. Collect the complete evil god contract and find the true body of the evil god. The mission is completed and you return to the real world. The mission failed, everyone was wiped out. The real main quest has been released. It is somewhat similar to the main quest in the game world. Although Yulin's hidden map theory still has some logical loopholes. But the trial was weird and changeable. In the hidden map of the game world, the main mission of the tower was revealed, which was not impossible. This is a team mission. Ningyu and Xiaochu instantly breathed a sigh of relief. Team tasks, in other words, there is no reason for hostility between them. Yulin has fully demonstrated her personal strength and sinister character in the game world Uranus. Ningyu suddenly felt enlightened as he recalled his various performances in the game world. No wonder that in turn-based games, dignified assassins have such outrageous methods as forced concealment. It turns out to be this guy's original ability. If you offend such a terrible person, you will have no peace all day long when you return to the real world, and you will be worried all day long, fearing that a knife will appear from behind at any time. As for why Yulin can fly in the sky in front of everyone, Ningyu would rather believe that it is a prop in the game. Isn't it strange that this outrageous guy can still save so many rare props in the hidden map, just props that can fly in the sky? Not surprising. Ningyu figured everything out. After the main mission was released, Yulin closed her eyes, like self-hypnosis, and once again connected the position of the evil god with survival through various reasonable logics. A few seconds later, the wildly rotating compass pointer pointed in a certain direction and completely stopped. There seems to be something wrong with the situation of giant beast Poseidon. At this moment, the blue light dust on Poseidon's body was constantly flowing away, reminding Yulin of the Chimera who was summoned to the real world in some way in Itai City. At that time, the Chimera was also floating with the same blue light. Color light dust. Yulin's eyes changed, but his expression remained as calm as before, and he signaled Poseidon the little whale to fly in the direction of the pointer. On Poseidon's back, Ningyu was still frowning, thinking about the content of the main mission. Collect the complete evil god contract? It should be the props composed of the 6 evil god contract, right? Should be. Fortunately, the final requirement of this mission does not require us to kill the evil god directly. Yulin smiled and said, the tower will not issue certain death missions. Maybe, in the tower's evaluation, with our current strength, it is impossible to kill the final boss of this trial, the evil god completed. Well, indeed Ningyu agreed with this statement and took a deep breath, but those boss are in Boros. Do we have to work hard to get here and have to go back to kill them again? This kind of development is a bit outrageous. Besides, before I left, I clearly saw that after the new red name appeared on the top of De Gil's head, it was instantly buried by the magma. Yulin's eyes narrowed slightly and his smile grew wider. You probably wouldn't have thought that when the great priest Gil died, the contract of the 6 evils on him fell directly into my toolbox. This. Ningyu was immediately shocked. Can you still play like this? Faintly, he seemed to sense that something was wrong. Not far away, Xiao Chuer thought deeply, if the 6 evil generals we killed in Uranus and all the 6 evil contracts were automatically dropped into the bag even if we didn't pick them up, then, the plot that should happen next is. Everyone thought of the same thing. He turned and looked behind him. Sure enough, from the hole in the black cloud, a mighty legion of monsters flew down from the hole. The army of monsters that covered the sky and sun was like locusts crossing the border, chasing the few people on Poseidon. The moment Li Erpang saw the monster army appear, he immediately went into convulsions. This is no longer a question of whether they can be beaten or not. Just the number of the enchanting banshees and hellfires alone can drown them in a sea of legs. What to do? Run. Yulin just took a look and roughly guessed that just like the giant beast Poseidon under her buttocks, many monsters from Uranus could not stay in this collapsed world for some reason. In hidden map. This can be roughly guessed from the blue light dust that continuously floats out of the monster. But if monsters catch up now, even if the burning legion is not at full health, it can tear them apart with one claw. It stands to reason that the tower will not give out unsolvable tasks. If the apostle thinks there is no solution, it must be that he has not yet found the correct way to open it. Illidan and Shadow of the Evil God are extremely fast. The two boss-level monsters, leading the way, flew in front of the monster army and quickly approached Poseidon. But even though Poseidon was a whale, he still dutifully followed Yilin's instructions and flew in the direction of Kangxin's compass. Poseidon was flying, with an army of monsters chasing behind him. The chase lasted for a full half hour. They crossed mountains and rivers, and crossed deserted cities. For half an hour, they didn't see even one living person on the ground. There was no trace of any living person in the desolate ruins. Not to mention a living person, not even a monster. Ningyu and Xiaochu were very confused. What was the point of making a map without any living creatures? But Yilin still gave a convincing explanation. This is a hidden map that hasn't been finished yet. We haven't had time to put all kinds of monsters into the map yet. It's not surprising. This is not. Yiren smiled and pointed into the distance. Isn't the final boss waiting for us? Following Yilin's finger, the other three people and one dog looked into the distance. Under the thundering black clouds, a huge shadow was floating silently in the sky. Underneath the shadows are the dark ruins of the city. In the center of the ruins, a tall tower building like a city landmark was bent at a sharp angle. The upper part collapsed in the city, like a small tree that was cut from the middle with an axe, and then fell to the side. This horrifying scene makes people wonder what kind of monster it is that can possess such terrifying destructive power. Yilin looked at the deserted city from a distance. No one noticed that a coldness flashed through his eyes again. That guy is the evil god. Ningyu quietly glanced at the pointer prop in Yilin's hand, took a slight breath of the cool air mixed with acid rain, and sighed, "Be more confident and remove the question mark." Li Erpang rubbed his palms and looked at the huge figure of the shadow, and his mouth twitched. "Isn't it still a turn-based system? I've had enough of the damn turn-based system." Although the little fat man's words were just speculation without thinking. But it frightened Ningyu and Xiaochu so much that they trembled at the same time. It can be seen how bad memories turn-based has left for them in the game world. "Don't worry, it won't happen." Yilin gave the answer definitely. At this moment, Yilin seems to have become the backbone of several people. Although Yilin did not explain why he was so sure that the next battle would not take place in the cheating turn system, the understanding and reasoning ability of the trial that Yilin showed along the way did not seem to be more decisive than Yilin's final decision. A convincing line. Boom. When it was nearly a kilometer away from the black shadow, Poseidon, who was constantly flowing with blue light and dust, finally exhausted his strength and smashed to the ground with several people, causing dust to fly. After a few breaths, Poseidon closed his eyes completely and stopped moving. Only then did they see clearly that Poseidon's true form was indeed a whale-like aquatic creature. A white whale. Before Poseidon fell, Yilin and others had expected the scene and were well prepared to jump off Poseidon's back in advance. "Before my spirit reaches 10 o'clock, my telekinesis power is still not enough to carry my weight." Yilin landed on her back, with the solid concrete road behind her. At the moment of falling, burning pain spread throughout her body, but it was nothing serious. The familiar heat flow circulates in the body, quickly eliminating the pain caused by the violent collision. Several people got up from the flying dust and looked up at the sky. "Thanks." Yilin looked back at Poseidon, who was completely dead, was silent for a moment, and said softly. "In the distance, most of the mighty monster army has disappeared." Obviously Yilin's guess was correct. The monsters that were hunted here from the world of Auranos could not stay in this world for a long time. As long as time was delayed, they would self-destruct sooner or later. Yilin's eyes narrowed slightly, and he once again thought of the Chimera in Itai City. The Chimera's decaying body seemed to be in a similar situation to these monsters. They're coming. Li Erpang let out a roar. At the end of the trial, he did not dare to hide his strength anymore. In the world of Auranos, the more than 200 kilograms of weight accumulated over several months of overeating finally had a use. He brazenly launched burn, fat, in the blink of an eye. He transformed from a naive fat man into a strong man with muscles as strong as a rock. This, seeing Li Erpang's astonishing change, Xiao Chuer was instantly stunned. She never imagined that this was the effect of Li Erpang's skills. Hey, beauty, fat man, am I particularly handsome now? Li Erpang's whole body seemed to be burning with hot flames, and his short hair stood on end and was stiff. As he spoke, Li Erpang laughed loudly, his brows filled with confidence, and he strode forward. Bah, Xiao Chuer actually envied Li Erpang's skills. This ability to control fat freely is what every girl wants to have from the bottom of her heart. Why did it happen to fall on a wretched fat man? What a pity. Don't waste time. You have a wife? Take the monster. Here it comes. Yilin reminded loudly. I know. When Li Erpang heard this, he immediately put away his colorful heart, squeezed out tears of sadness from his narrowed eyes, and turned to face the army of monsters. His generous and majestic back looked like a martyr rushing to the battlefield. Stay back. I'll go first. None of the people present were rookies. The team battle is about to begin, and everyone quickly finds their position. Ning slapped his right palms on the ground and activated his skills. The cracked concrete road suddenly shook, and walls quickly formed, blocking everyone's path. You know nothing about power. 6 evil generals. Betrayer Illidan, now covered in blue and green flames, his body size has shrunk by a circle compared to what he was on the clouds, and thin traces of blood appeared on the surface of his dark skin. Green blood is oozing out from those blood marks, and he doesn't seem to be in peak condition.